Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you and peace out to the rest of you. The blackest heart, the blackest mind, the blackest man on social media, sign of black in and shine again, asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Each one, reach one, teach one. I got several things I wanted to cover today. And I guess the most controversial one is probably going to be the one that I'm going to save for last. That being said, one of the first things I'm going to open up with is about a lady named Erica Clark. Erica Clark is a comedian, and she identified herself as Mr. T's daughter. I can't prove or disprove that in fact she's Mr. T's daughter, but I don't have any reason to doubt it. I mean, as she herself said in her skit, why, if I'm going to lie about who my dad is, would I choose him? And that being said, I guess it makes sense. If you're going to lie about it, you can lie and claim anybody, really. Before I really get into this, though, would you all please put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me clearly? If you can hear clearly, please put a 1 in it. All right, I guess nobody can hear. Give me a moment. I want to type into the chat box. Oh, wait, nope, I stand corrected. Okay, I see. Okay, I see 3 1s coming through. Excellent, excellent. Okay, all right. So, alhamdulillah, the sound is working. I was panicking for a second. I think there's a delay. So, Erica Clark was doing a skit, and I saw it maybe the day before yesterday, or the night before last night for some of you. Erica Clark said that the lesbians were enticing, that she went ahead and decided to try going to a gay club, and that the way they were flirting was almost irresistible, and she's not into women. She said that she was approached by a lady, and she said, "I'm just here with my friends," and the lady said, "Oh, okay, I got it." And the lady left and then came back and said, "I just want you to know that if you came home with me, you would not have to cook or clean, and I would eat you out every night." And Miss Clark was very impressed with that. Now, granted, this is comedy. The problem is that art and life tend to imitate each other. And then after one has imitated the other one enough, it gains influence enough to influence the other one. So this mutual influence and imitation of art and life is what's gotten my attention. You see, this does reflect something, but I'm going to tell you what she said. Then you'll see exactly what it reflects. I'll tell you the rest of it. She later on went to say that to get her fix, sometimes she goes to the south side of Chicago. And then she said 79th and something else, the corner of 79th and I forgot the name of the cross street, to be exact. And she said that she gets a good fix there. She said, "I always have to go to the nearest Walmart or Kmart and put things on Larry. I don't know what Larry is, but apparently he's carrying a lot of stuff." And I'm sure she meant to say layaway. She goes and makes down payments for somebody who really gives it to her good and gets these things put on layaway. Now, what is the one thing that was not valuable to her? A woman, and she identifies herself as heterosexual, or I'm not going to assume that the guy's a thug, but a guy that clearly has less than she does. These are the two things that are valuable to her. The only man unmentioned was a normal, non-dusty guy. Now, we know if you have less than a woman, in her eyes, you're dusty. So that's what I'm getting at here. So the only man that was not mentioned was the normal guy that has, let's say, as much as she does, or at least a medium amount of wealth, a normal middle class amount. No, she said that either you must either be a woman, or you must be coming from a zip code that tells her right off the bat you don't have a third of what she does, a fifth, a sixth. The normal regular guy was the reason she was tired of men. So if she can't get the top 20% of man, she'll consider either another woman or a Southside dude for whom she must pay to put things on Larry, as he pronounces it. The normal guy that means no harm and can speak well is the one who gets the blame for the men she wants and can't get. This is what is being reflected. And this is why there is a manosphere to begin with. This is why there's a white or black manosphere, for that matter. One of the things that the manospheres have in common, white and black alike, is that they're Western. And they're actually complaining about the same ladies. Just like these ladies are complaining about the same few individual men, we are complaining not about the same few individual ladies, but we are complaining about the same types, because they are probably more than half. If they're not half the population of ladies, they're certainly more than half of the single population into the 20s. This is why there is one. This is why it is that we're going to counter every single time when these ladies say something about families aren't being formed anymore, they're not getting started, the population is decreasing. Every time they say this, I'm going to bring this up and I'm going to tell other men, you bring up these things. What the hell did they want to begin with? This was something that was in their control. We made it too easy for them. So that means it was mostly under their control. They had the most control over the beginnings of families. They were the gatekeepers of this. They were the gatekeepers of conception. So why are they worried now about fewer babies being conceived or fewer families being born to began to begin with? Anyway, next topic. And it's about me being one-sided, and I covered this yesterday. But okay, walaikum salam, new era. Yeah, I think there may be a time delay of 10 to 20 seconds as possible. All right, so the next topic I want to discuss is going to be not just why I'm one-sided, but our need to be one-sided. It's not unfair anymore. It's actually the reason that, it's actually the right thing to do. It is the fair thing to do. It is necessary. Being one-sided is something that you have to do in a war. You don't have to be one-sided necessarily in business. You can say, well, I'll consider what is a mutual benefit to both of us. In romance, of course, in real, true romance, hopefully within a marriage, of course. But in that kind of situation, you would say, okay, well, let's look and see what's going to be of benefit to both of us. The problem is that, ça passe dans Calypso. Comment allez-vous, monsieur? The real reason that we got to be one-sided is because this is not romance. This is not what we would think it's not what we were raised to think that it was. See, internally and privately between men, we can hold each other accountable, meaning the guilty ones that about whom we know, but we aren't required to accept blame or responsibility for what guilty men do behind closed doors, unknown to the rest of us, unless we encouraged it. When another man leaves his kids behind, only he is guilty, and whatever other man encouraged him to do such is also guilty with him. Proportionally speaking, when a man hits or abuses a woman, it's the same thing. When a man ghosts a woman, only he and the men who encourage ghosting for reasons not related to safety are the ones you can really point a finger at. Okay, you ghost when you don't have to, and you encourage it. Okay, so we could put the blame on them. Now, this is internally and privately, not in front of others. But how many of you listening encourage other men to strike women outside of self-defense? And go ahead and put a raised hand in the chat if any of this that I'm saying does apply to you when you're up here doing and encouraging these things? How many of you encourage men to leave their kids behind? How many of you encourage other men to lie to get them drawers? How many of you strike women for reasons outside of self-defense? Not encourage. How many of you actually do it? How many of you leave your kids behind? I'm pausing to give people time to confess if they feel the need to do so. How many of you lied to get the drawers? Well, I expect that there should be more hands raised for that. I would have done so myself when I was younger, but I figured that I would definitely get caught, and I knew something about false accusations being a weapon back then. Okay, someone knows someone that lied to get the drawers. Mr. Imperfection, did you encourage him to lie to get the drawers, or did he do this without your encouragement? I don't ask this to accuse you. I ask this strictly for the benefit of knowledge of the others in here. Because your answer is going to, your answer serves to teach a lesson to those that are listening, to the detractors especially. So when he lied to get them drawers, did he do this with any encouragement from you or on his own? Okay, I'm not sure if you can hear me anymore, but so here's the thing. I asked the questions, what have you encouraged? What have you actually done? And okay, so he did this without your encouragement. And that's exactly my point. The men who encourage and the men who do these things are the only ones to place the blame on. If you did these things, you're not going to sit here and confess to this in the chat room anyway, and I would not expect it. Anybody that does these things is not going to come out and tell us in person, I did this, that, and the other. Yeah, it was wrong, but I did it anyway. So if that's the case, then why is it that we are expected to know every bad thing every other man does and take the blame for it, especially when the blame is not even being assigned to them, let alone the punishment? You see, even telling a man that he's got to lie to get the drawers is controversial because women demand this, making it different from saying that he should. But you can see how this could be another can of worms to argue about. But look at the other things I mentioned. If men do this, we know it's wrong. So either we don't do it or we're not going to tell anybody anyway in a chat room or in person. This is where the difference comes in. When they do something wrong, and many of them do it, when most of them try to use one man for resources while they're with another man to whom they plan to give the resources, when 30% of the ones whose boyfriends or husbands suspect them are actually guilty of paternity fraud, that's a third of the ones whose boyfriends or husbands suspect. DNA cases that are a DNA test that are done. Not necessarily 30% of kids altogether, but 30% of DNA tests show that the man being tested is not the one that sired and conceived that baby. And in England, they've blocked these do-it-yourself DNA tests. I think it has to be done with mom's consent. In France, the courts have to give permission for it. So what I'm saying is that when they do something like this, no matter how many or how few of them do it, number one, doing a study to see how many of them do this would be so harshly condemned. Even if you just want to get the stats so that you don't blame a higher percentage than what's actually guilty, will get you condemned. That's why we got to be one-sided in this. They're one-sided, and a lot of them don't even realize it. I don't think that the average Western lady grew up with her mother telling her, listen, baby, now you're going to hit puberty in a few years and you need to know that we're at war with these men, and don't let them know that. No, I think they just figure it out from generation to generation. They do sit these ladies down and say, now, baby, let me tell you what men are like. That's what happens. So that being said, When a man is in a barbershop and he brags about how he takes care of his woman and she doesn't control him, this is normal. But we know in the barbershop, let a man say that he hits her, or he doesn't allow her to talk to her family, or he doesn't let her have her own money, or he pins her down to have sex when she doesn't agree, even if they're married and he took care of everything else, or that he lives off of women and then cheats on the same ones off of whom he lives. Now, the last one might impress some young misguided boys, but most black males, period, would disapprove of this stuff. And that man might be run out the barbershop, even if his hair is only halfway cut. He will probably be photographed halfway cut and then told, we kicked this dude out of this barbershop, and they will put it on social media. Yeah, man, we kicked this cat out this barbershop talking this crazy stuff. We kicked him out just like this. This is his name. Dude's a dirtbag. That's what's likely to happen. Now let's check the hair salons. And I mentioned this yesterday. In the hair salons, is it the same thing? I know the answer because my own mother told me that in the hair salons, ratchet behavior is encouraged, approved of, bragged about, praised, and lauded and high-fived. So trapping men with babies because they realize that they are about to leave, they should leave a relationship and they're about to leave, this gets praised. Oh, you smart. Yeah, he gonna have to stick around now. Paternity fraud. Telling one man that someone else's baby is his is praised. Not every woman getting her hair done is with this mess in the hair salons. The problem is that the ones that are not with this mess can't speak out against it because they're more likely to get thrown out with their hair half done and risk getting sliced up or shaved bald than the ratchet ones are that are promoting this stuff and bragging about it. Because if you're not ratchet, you're not ratchet. So you're not going to do things to ratchet people that they would do to you. So I don't know a nice way to say this. I'm going to go ahead and use the B word. The ratchet bitch that is with this and the others high-fiving her stank ass aren't being pinned down. And they're not being shamed for this mess in any way, form, or fashion. And as a matter of fact, I think it was in D.C. the one lady, 34, a drug addict, was trying to get at a 14-year-old boy, trying to hug and kiss on him or something. They put her in a dumpster and she got this outpouring of sympathy. But she's 34 and he was 14 or 15. And the hair salon treated her, gave her a complete makeover, actually. So you can't get kicked out of these hair salons with your hair half done if you're a lady and you're talking about doing some seriously horrible things to men that you would never tolerate a man, that we men would not tolerate a man doing to women. It's the reverse, actually. And this is why my mother changed hairdressers 2 decades ago. Now, she's always refused to go to white hairdressers. Not that they would necessarily know what to do anyway, but she's always refused. She said, I go to black hairdressers. You can be black Cuban, you can be black American, you can be black anything, but I go to black hairdressers. So what she had to do was that she had to look for a black hairdresser that was in a white-owned national chain salon and give her the business. And this was when she admitted that I had been right and she had been wrong about the difference between her generation and mine, which I mentioned yesterday. The 2 times where and my mother's been good about that. When she finds out I was right about something, she'll come back and say, Black, you were right. I didn't know about this. There was another case too I told people about in previous videos. Doesn't necessarily factor in here yet. But see, in her generation, ratchet existed, but it was ratchet. They didn't use that term, but it wasn't legitimized everywhere that we predominate. But in my generation, and I'm in my early 40s, the ones that are ratchet deride the decent. And they sound as if they outnumber the well-meaning women for not using decent dudes to have some substance, even if only financial. So as to give that substance to an undeserving dude about whom they're going to later complain to us anyway, and for whose sins they will blame us innocents and crucify us as much as they can. This imbalance and the difference between the circles of men and women is why I go in on the ratchet or even the game-playing women and not so much the game-playing men. Game-playing men really are individuals, as we just saw someone point out. As we saw Mr. Imperfection point out, this man did it on his own. They do it as individuals. When women do these things to men, somebody taught them. And not only did someone teach them, they sat and listened. And most of us know that certain games are going to be played. Sometimes we can look and tell. We can look at how a lady looks and tell, okay, yeah, she's gonna be playing these games. She's gonna be about these games. Now, this leads me to the next topic right quick. And that's the two types of men on whom I will go in gladly. Both of them legitimize women demanding game while they're the masters of game out the gate anyway, meaning the women are the masters of game out the gate. Understand the paradox of game. Now, I mentioned this on MOT's broadcast, on his panel last night, my time, which would have been yesterday afternoon, you all's time, most of you. I mentioned this to a man that was saying, yeah, but see, you need to have some game, brother. I came up NOI, brother. My mother died at 19, brother. Game, brother. So he had to raise himself, and I understand. Know how, the gift of gab, these things do work. But see, we understand. If I were to say to you, listen, man, I went over to your uncle's shop and I spat some game and I got these Cokes, man. You're going to look at me and say, nigga, did you pay my uncle for them Cokes? And that's what you should say, because I said I spat some game. I didn't say I bought. Now, it could mean that I just negotiated a discount. It could mean that, I don't know. But see, game implies that there's not really much of a substance behind it. The implication, the implied meaning of it is not positive in many cases, unless you're talking about a football game, a soccer game, a basketball game, a boxing match, a board game. Outside of that, it doesn't really imply a positive meaning. If it did, we wouldn't be using it so much. So women are the ones that are the masters of game, because they have us trying to figure out what game we need to bring to them when they already like us. You don't get no stronger game than that. And all of them are on code, even outside the West. How you going to beat that kind of game? So one of these two types of men I mentioned defends any kind of effort from the wicked witches of the West. And he says that you should just be what they want you to be in the first place, so that they would be bringing you other men's resources instead of the other way around, bringing other men your resources. And that if you were this dude, hell, they might even bring your children and the bills to the other men. The next one says that we men are doing just as wrong and in the same numbers and proportions, and we're just as collectively guilty. And he might actually believe that. The second one I mentioned just now might actually think that, because I used to think that before. I just figured, well, so many people in the world, it's realistic to think that the same percentage of men and women are going to be dishonest with each other, trying to get their interests met without meeting standards that are appropriate to meet these interests. But see, this man, which I was initially, and then which I refused to remain, this man does not think analytically and critically enough when you present to him why we have no business going in on men going in on each other as much as we do the Western women who practice deception. And I do say Western women to practice deception. I go in on a non-Western woman if I catch her doing it. I just don't see that happen as much, nor do I even hear the rumors. I hear the rumors. I've heard the rumors about twice, actually. And you know what, gentlemen? I'm going to tell y'all the two times I heard rumors about non-Western women playing games. In both cases, there were Southeast Asian women and they were playing games on white dudes. I'm sorry, 3 times. And all of them were my colleagues. I apologize, but 2 were Southeastern Asian women playing games on 2 colleagues of mine. The other one was not Southeastern Asian. She was South Korean. And of course, she was playing on my colleague. So all 3 of these guys were white colleagues of mine, white coworkers. Every last one of them. Now, I knew some brothers that married from Southeast Tropical Asia. Ain't nobody try to play them games on them. Granted, brothers might not admit it if they did try it, but now in the manosphere, you can admit, yeah, this one tried to play this game. That's how I know what I'm talking about. And where I'm working now, you got a lot of brothers that are married to Filipinas, and they'll say, no, man, I'm spoiled. I myself, I married an East African, and I'm spoiled as all get out. She's going to a get together that the lady teachers are having now, because we're about to go back to work, even before the students start classes. And so they're having to get together, and she decided to go ahead and cook so as to save money. And she did it so that I wouldn't need to go outside and eat while she's at this get together. I didn't expect this. I woke up expecting that we would pick up food, some that she could bring to the get together, and then some that I would have. I woke up expecting this. I was actually ready to go to Applebee's. She cooked. I didn't expect it. I'm spoiled, gentlemen. So I try to spoil her in return. And most of us men are actually willing to do it. Most Western black men are going to return this kind of treatment with the same kind of treatment. So she says to me that I spoil her. But you know, if you let a lot of Western sisters tell it, oh, we black men are terrible and we just beat women. And some would even have the nerve to say, well, if she was a West African, you wouldn't treat her the same way. Actually, yes, I would have. I would. And I would probably even know more of her native language if she was a West African by now. So those are the two types of men that we have to go in on. We got to understand. We got to understand that the second one, he may not have heard the evidence. It's hard to prove the truth to him in the beginning without printing up a whole lot of statistics and papers to show to them. But there's one thing you can say to those men, the second kind, the one that says, well, we men are just as guilty as they are, like collectively speaking, as if we even have that kind of game, which I just illustrated and showed that we don't. He'll tell you that any woman that can weaponize the police and courts against a man would do so anywhere in the world. What he doesn't realize is that he's supporting the stance that we're actually enemies and not even mutual compliments to each other, meaning the genders are at war. He's supporting the stance that they're at war with us, if he says that. If every single woman that can weaponize courts and police against a man does so, then frankly, every marriage would end in a divorce with a domestic violence claim against the man somewhere, and every unmarried man, actually, every unmarried woman would have accused some man of rape. Every single one, if that's the case. Because he said, because they're going to say to you that any woman that can weaponize the system against the men will do so. So anyway, next thing I want to get at right quick. Walaikum salam, Artzak, Abekabar. Kamirindu Kamu. All right. So we've heard some people say that you need to ignore women. We've heard some guys that are really business minded say, just ignore women, put them on the back burner. They're not important. They're going to be there. To a certain extent, that is true. But we have to remember, on a whole, the genders can't ignore each other. Allah did not design the genders that way. This situation in which we have to ignore them, most of those situations aren't even normal and natural. We adapt. We do it because we have to. But let's not act like, well, this is a normal thing that everybody's got to do. See, we're going to pay attention to each other. Now, they may pretend they don't pay attention to us most of the time, but in reality, the genders are going to pay attention to each other. But we men must be smart about it, because the ladies are always strategizing when they pay attention to us, as would anybody in a war. The thing is, they're strategizing and they're paying attention to us as though we're marks in a Cold War that we're not supposed to know what's going on. They're not necessarily paying attention to us the way that they were designed to do. Because if they did, they would actually prioritize their own sexual needs over their materialism. That's why, that's why the Lord gave all of us dinglings. But he didn't make most of the men he didn't even make a third of the men on the planet as rich as women want us to be. He was telling them, you're going to have to prioritize your clitoris over your wallet. And they haven't learned that lesson, especially in the West. So we pay attention to them on their own terms. Because they smart like that. That's game. They got us paying attention to them on their own terms. They do more than pay attention to us on their own terms, though. You see, when they pay attention to us, they pay attention to us not only on their own terms, they actually pay attention to us on the opposite of our terms. If you think they don't have this mindset, how many of you know a highly educated sister that's so proud of her education that she actually takes the opposite opinion of the men in her life? Most of us don't know some lady like that. I knew one that was an attorney. She was a great attorney. Helped me out in her personal life. She was married to another friend of mine. She's a friend and her husband's a friend of mine. She ran him off because a lot of times she didn't have an opinion about something till he had one opinion, and then she'd take the opposite. My cousin noticed this and said, okay, you know what? That couple, They can come to see me, but I'm not going to their house because she's going to start an argument in her house, and I'm going to clap back even though it's her house. She ran off that husband. Now, to be honest, to be fair, she got another husband. She remarried. But that first husband, my friend, she ran off. She ran him off like he stole her credit. But he didn't. However, she had to learn that lesson. She had to realize you don't run off good people like this. So what I'm saying is they're always strategizing. And even though the Lord designed us to be drawn to each other naturally, we men did not screw up the mechanisms by which the genders get together, by which the couples form, and by which the families get started. It was never in our interest to do so. The Wicked Witch of the West is the one that did that, trying to get mutually exclusive things out of men at any cost, while they themselves would look at two things that aren't mutually exclusive, good looks and a good attitude, and then refuse to bring them both to the same table as if they were mutually exclusive, like they can't look good and have a good attitude. Most of them even act like they can't look good and be attracted to you genuinely. Many of them will act like this. Yeah. Low cast, I don't mind. And thanks for the compliment, Art Zuck. Teddy Makasi. Peace, Rael. What's happening, man? Yeah, Rael, I can see why, man. I can see why, Rael. Because, see, that's the thing about it. People tend to think that we in here just beating up on black women because they're black and we hate them. And that's not what's going on. Because we know black women got talent. Eastern, Western, anything in between. We know they got talent. They make great lawyers. They make great physicists when that's what they're interested in. They make great physicians. We know that. I mean, my wife was attended to by a sister that's the dentist here in this country. And when I say a sister, I mean she's from this country. She's a citizen here, but she was a sister. I kind of envy many of you, because when I pass by one of our own over here, they don't know that they're walking by one of their own. They don't know that because my uniform is off. But most of you, I mean, if y'all came here, especially if you already Muslim and you come and you came here and you see one of us, even with the local garb, you start chatting with them, they'll be glad to meet you. I mean, they want to take all kind of notes, and of course, all they really get to see are the rap videos, but they'll be glad to learn more about what it's like to be us, you know, what it's like to have so-called black experience in North America. Art Zuck, about your last point, there's going to be a translation of this, I'm sure, at some point. And at some point, man, I might even be able to translate these things myself into Bahasa. It may happen, but it's going to depend. I mean, I'm still trying to learn my wife's native language, and she's a great English teacher, but she gets impatient trying to teach her own language. So I got a long ways to go before I can put these into Bahasa. All right, so anyway, I'm just saying that they're trying to get things that are mutually exclusive out of us. And they're taking two things that aren't and insisting that they can't bring those two to us, like that's too good for us. So next thing I'm gonna point out, this next topic right quick, is this saying. The first time I ever read it was on a placard in a demonstration, but I heard it before, actually. I just can't remember where I heard it. It's a saying that every woman knows a woman who was raped, but no man seems to know a man that's a rapist. All I'm gonna say is, if I was caught trying to cover up for a rapist, not only my mother, but my father would disown me. If I was caught covering for an innocent man that was accused, they would disown me. So what man's going to come out and say to other men, I'm a rapist? What this is an implication that all of us men are involved in some kind of conspiracy and cover up. Like we all know someone that's doing this stuff, but we just cover them up. It doesn't actually help us to cover them up, though. And I'm going to tell you why. To cover up a man that's a rapist, that means he's going around, he's not only giving ding-a-ling for free, he's forcing it. How are you going to get the proper value for your genitals if somebody's out here forcing other people to take it and not demanding anything in exchange for it, be it cash or even just minimum personal standards? So it's not in our best interest necessarily to do that. Plus, we all have moms, aunts, lady cousins. We all got them. We don't want rapists going around here just free to keep on committing rapes. But I'm going to say this too, though. One of the reasons that a lot of these leftist feminists are going to say this is because they understand that when they get selfish enough, they don't even have to sit down and have a conference with other ladies to run games on us. If they're going to obey their base, most selfish instincts, it doesn't take a conspiracy for them to all be in on the same thing. They're just going to look out for a particular set of interests they got without trying to meet the standards that we would have that would make it fair. So what I'm saying is they're going to try to throw conspiracy charges on us because they don't want us to think that they're the ones conspiring. Another thing, if every woman that wasn't a rape victim knows a woman who was, and no man that's not a rapist knows another man that is a rapist, it means that either a few men are committing most of the rapes, which makes sense under one condition, or that many claims of rape aren't true. Again, if every woman knows a woman that was a rape victim and no man knows a man that's a rapist, it means that either a few men are going out committing many rapes, and that makes sense, it's possible, under a certain condition, or that most of the rape claims, I shouldn't say most, but that many claims of rape aren't true. I suspect it's a combination of both of them, but I want to say this about a few men committing a lot of rapes. The only way that that can be true is if the rapes are being underreported or the rapists are just hard to catch and discover. Though that's what it would take in order for this claim to be true. And I'm not justifying it. I'm not justifying any act of rape. I'm simply saying that this idea that all of us men out here covering for them is bogus. Because believe you me, the women holding up these placards and saying these things are much more likely to keep their friends secret if she's committing paternity fraud on a man that don't deserve it than what we are to cover up for a man that we know is committing rapes. Now, we may not want to jump to conclusions just on an allegation. That's fair. But what they're saying is like, oh, we could walk in and see somebody committing a rape, turn around, walk off the other direction whistling, and then tell the cops, oh, we didn't see anything when they come and ask us. Like, no, that's not what happened. And that's not what happens in real life, because we know that guy in California, the one that only got 6 months and got out in 3 from the county jail. We know that guy was actually tackled by some exchange students that caught him in the act. And those two had to get counseling. The two that caught him had to get counseling for what they saw. There was no cover up. He just got off lightly because the judge let him off. So whenever we hear anything about these conspiracy charges, we need to understand we ain't the ones conspiring. Remember, we're not the ones that have real game. We're trying to get it and develop it to improve them because they got so much game. They got us thinking that we need it. That's what that is. And when we actually learn enough about them, they start getting upset. What they're trying to say also is that we cover for rapists because we're all potential rapists. Therefore, we sympathize with the actual rapist. That's another thing that they're trying to imply. Now, the implication isn't because we cover for men that we know, but it's because they believe we could do something like that, because they can do something like that collectively without one phone call, without one teleconference, one WhatsApp group meeting. They can actually agree on these things. And the truth be told, I venture to say that paternity fraud is probably more common than outright rape, to be honest with you. Because see, alimony laws and custody laws and child support laws were passed mostly by male legislators. And the first two can be weaponized by women against us, even though they're men. The last one is kind of being reinterpreted. The child support laws are kind of being reinterpreted to men's disfavor by keeping non-fathers on the hook for child support to other men's kids in the name of in loco parentis, meaning so he thought he was a dad for so many years, so he stuck with the child support, or he was willing to be a legal stepfather for so many years, he's stuck with the child support. And believe you me, gentlemen, these women know these laws before they get with you. So if you're going to be with a lady with kids, I would tell you don't do it if you don't have kids of your own. I would say just don't do it. You don't have kids, don't get with somebody with them, unless you just don't want to have your own. But even then, you still have to stop and think, if she did not have another man's kids, would she be willing to be with you? Because she may think of you as a genetic inferior. I don't think of you that way, but she may. And of course, she's not going to tell you that. But you got to understand, if you're going to be with them, even if you got kids, you have every right to try to find out as much as you can about that biological dad, the one she let nut in her raw without pulling out, and see what type he is. That means then you'll be able to tell if you're really her type or not. And if you ain't her type, you got no business looking after her babies. I'm not saying be mean to the babies. It's not their fault. I'm just saying you got no business taking responsibility for them. And she's going to, and you got to know the laws of your state. Can you be on the hook for that? Even if you don't marry her, can you be on the hook? Because they know this, they discuss this, and they will sit up here and try to do these things based on what's legal, because they're looking for someone to be on the hook for their babies. So next thing is I want to discuss Kamala Harris. Yes, Mr. J1S, Merlin Santana's dead because of a false accusation. That lady said that he was trying to flirt with her or something. And the funny thing is, Mr. J, is because she was a minor, she's out of prison, but the guy that she got to commit the murder still behind bars. Yeah, he ain't getting out. And he did this trying to impress some woman, because he knows doggone well if he didn't do it, she would have said you ain't no real man and would have told everybody. And so in order for him to avoid being that dude that can't never get none, he had to go out and commit an act to get him thrown in a place where he can't never get none, unless it's the unnatural variety, of course. And I think she knew what she was doing. I think she, I think she was sitting up thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to get him in just because for an ego trip, I'm going to get this dude thrown in prison and get another dude hurt. I don't think she knew that Merlin Santana was going to wind up dead, but she still had to know though. Rael, that's the thing about it. What you mentioned, oh, it's two guys that committed it. Okay. I heard about one, the trigger man. I know he's in prison still, but I didn't know that there were two men involved in doing that. I guess somebody had to drive the getaway car though. So that would make sense. Rael, I see what you're saying. You can't even believe it when they claim they've been raped. And granted, they're going to be real victims, but that's the thing about it. See, they don't want to admit that when they started to politically weaponize Me Too, that was going to hurt a lot of women that actually were rape victims. So when real rape victims are not believed, it's actually more their fault than it is ours, because we're not walking around sitting up saying, oh, I don't believe it because I don't want to believe it, because I want rapists to get away with it. That's not it. That's not why we're doing that. That's not the reason why we're sitting up saying that. We're sitting up disbelieving it now because we're disbelieving it now because it's been politically weaponized. And of course, as we know, an accusation, let's say a harassment accusation in the workplace, largely depends on what she thinks of the way that man looks. A compliment from one man that's flattering is a harassment case from another man that she just wouldn't want to be caught dead with. And let's be honest. Let's be honest here. We already know that there's such a thing as a hive mind. Gentlemen, do you really believe that every time you are assessed by a lady, that you're being assessed without what her friends think being in the equation? Do you think that every time she chooses or doesn't choose you, she's doing it without factoring in what her friends would say? So I'll give y'all time to write your opinions on that last question there. And when it comes to the subject of when it comes to the subject of the Pookies and the ex-Pookies, I'm going to say quickly that I'm all for people not being blamed for things they didn't do and people not being overpunished even for the things that they did do. I'm all for that. But I also want to say this about the arguments that have been going on regarding these Pookies and the ex-Pookies. There's some that say, look, man, take the Pookie with you, the street dude. He needs to come in and build Zamunda. He can contribute. And I'm using Zamunda and Wakanda as symbols for different levels of whatever it is that we're going to do with the community if we improve it. Different levels of improvement in the community. I'm just using those as symbols. Zamunda and Artzuk, in case you lose the cultural reference, Zamunda is a fictitious country in a movie called Coming to America. You may have seen the comedy with Eddie Murphy, Coming to America. Well, that country is a fictitious country named Zamunda. And then, of course, Wakanda, even you know about Artzuk because of the recent movie Black Panther that came out. Before that, it was a comic book. It's also a fictitious country, but it's more technologically advanced. So these are just symbols I'm using for different levels of improvement of the Black community in the future, inshallah. So as we go and set up Zamunda and then hopefully later Wakanda, there's this debate, what we're going to do with them. And I talked about the Malcolm X standard for one reason. The Malcolm X standard is the standard that takes, it separates the truly reformed ex-thug from just your ex-thug or your still thug. And when I say thug, Artzuk, I want to point this out. I don't mean somebody from a poor neighborhood because that doesn't mean that they're a thug, but I do mean people that actually commit crimes, especially crimes that have victims, especially crimes that have Black victims. Anybody that not only does it, but encourages that, looks at it like it's cool, we can't take them with us. So to be honest with you, a truly reformed ex-criminal like Malcolm, they can actually contribute. But somebody that never did this kind of stuff, never did this life, but was glorified for whatever reason, cannot come with us. So if somebody grew up in the same neighborhood I did, which was a nice neighborhood, it's not quite like Cascade in Atlanta, but it was a nice neighborhood. Somebody that grew up in my neighborhood and glorifies that dumb stuff and is still buying weed at my age, even though it's weed is not a violent crime and it doesn't necessarily have a victim, but they're still doing stuff like that that can get them in permanent trouble with permanent consequences. Can't come to Zamunda with us. But somebody from the neighborhood that was catty corner to mine with a hell of a lot lower average income that does not glorify this stuff and would actually encourage people to learn the trades that they can use to earn their own living. That's someone that could come with us. Now, I do understand that people can get a record for dumb stuff. I realize that. A non-thug can get a Schedule II drug conviction because they had somebody else's prescription drugs in their possession, even if the other person for whom it was prescribed forgot it in their possession. That can't happen. And I'm not necessarily saying that somebody like that should be shut out of Zamunda and later Wakanda. But the thing is, we have to know who is who. And we have to be careful because the ones that get up and start glorifying this stuff and saying, no, take the ex-convict that's in there because of some ignorant stuff they actually did wrong. Second chance. And that person is not against the ignorance culture that they were following when they got into that trouble in the first place. We can't listen to the one that's telling us and vouching for them. I'm not going to promote a standard that is elitist on one hand. I'm also not going to promote a standard that is too lowbrow on the other. When somebody reforms, they have to go against what it was they were doing that's wrong. whether it's when I became a Muslim, which is just a religious conversion, or whether it's a thug deciding to become a productive citizen, which actually can take a lot more. And I'm gonna go even a step further. If there's any Muslim that thinks that I'm less of a Muslim because I didn't become Muslim in prison or in some county jail somewhere, we can't even take them to Zamunda with us. If they think that it's only a valid conversion for an African-American male if he's in prison or if he's in a county jail, we can't even take that person with us. The thing is, that's a very rare idea for some people to have. Most people don't think that way. There's some that do, but most don't. I mean, some cats at one point, probably about 8 years ago, there were some cats that would have thought I was a spy. African-American, became Muslim, never been to prison, and I got all my teeth. There were some people that actually thought that, but they were pretty rare. So, really an elitist view is still going to be a bit favorable to the view that is too lowbrow, because many elitists, when they actually meet a truly reformed ex-thug, the alarms don't go off in their head. They may not even know that this person is an ex-killer, stealer, may have no clue. But there are cats that have never done these things, cats that have actually done the right things their whole lives, and they're out here advocating for guys that committed not only crimes, but they committed crimes with victims, specifically Black victims, and saying we should take them with us. No. Mm-mm. If you had told them before they committed a crime that they shouldn't commit it, would they have listened to you? That's how you know. Yeah, Archduck, don't worry, man. My skills in language are so bad, bro. I couldn't become a spy. I mean, I can't flirt in Bahasa, even if I wanted to. All right, next thing is about ADOS and pan-Africanism. I do recommend ADOS being used as a description when you're talking about reparations, so that people collect reparations for what they've actually done. But I'm going to tell y'all why it is that, unfortunately, that's not going to work. When ADOS got started as a hashtag, number one, from my understanding, it got started or it became popularized by Yvette Carnell. Now, Yvette Carnell herself is already problematic. And I'm gonna let y'all know something. Many of you may know some people, Black folks, that are from the Caribbean or from the continent or both. I certainly do. When I lived in Atlanta, I met a lot of them, and it got to a point that's all I hung out with. They don't play what Yvette Carnell does in her bedroom. In most of those communities, if you do that stuff, you fuck the shuck up. You don't tell nobody about it. It ain't their business, and they're not gonna ask you. But you do not promote that kind of stuff, and you don't publicize it and try to normalize it. And that's if their culture is one in which you can just you can keep it in private. There are some cultures from back home where they don't play that mess if they find out that you were doing it privately. Most of the continent is not in favor of that kind of stuff. It is not African. And most of them understand that. They see that as something that came from the colonizer. So you can't be up here, you a lady and you munching on another lady's carpet, or you a dude, you gobbling bananas and putting them in your tailpipe, and then act like you know, somehow that's normal. Most of the continent is against that stuff. When I was a college student, Ethiopia was one country where you would get taken out for that. As a matter of fact, they didn't even believe that it existed. And they didn't have a word for it in the Amharic language. They had to borrow a word from Arabic even to talk about it in the historical context, because they do have the story of Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah in their Bible. And of course, the Muslims have it in the Quran, but there wasn't a word in their own language to describe specifically homosexuality. So what I'm saying is this was like, it was just unknown. And even in Jamaica, we heard about how they don't play that mess. They would tell you, we didn't know about this back home. But then others will say, well, see, they got the laws from They got the laws from England. Well, the laws are from England, but the people's disgust with it is from Africa. That's why they're disgusted with it. And yeah, Obama did find out the hard way. He tried to sell it to Kenya and Uganda. And they said, keep that mess over there, bro. And they should have, because it's never promoted on a population and then that population benefits. It's just not done. It wasn't even promoted to the benefit of Europe's population, for that matter. So that being said, Yvette Carnell wanted reparations, but she also understood that she was not going to get the support. She knew that she was an anathema. She was not going to even be taken seriously by black folks from other countries, except maybe Canada and the UK, some of Western Europe. But black folks from blacker countries weren't going to even take her seriously because she's got a live-in white girlfriend. So she came up with this, and it was a good description historically speaking. The problem with it is that as she came up with it, it became an element of division. And then you had guys talking about ADOS, man, F them Africans, man, F them Jamaicans, and F them Haitians. No. The difference between a Dominican, a Jamaican, my black ass, a Haitian, a Grenadian, a Belizean, a Guyanese, a Brazilian, a black Colombian is a boat stop. And the way I know this is because, see, back in 2011, that's when I had this good job I told y'all about. Good job, nice job. The only good job I've ever had as an adult in the United States. And I was working with a bunch of Southern white conservative Republicans. You know what that was like. Now, I hid my race on the application. I didn't fill that part out. I hid my religion from them all the time because I had to get that money for these babies. They're paranoid. When we started working, I no longer hid my race. They started cracking jokes about a blacker man than myself. I made jokes about them too. I took them as jokes, but I said, hey, tit for tat, quid pro quo. If they can joke, they can take it. If they can take it, they're fair. I found out that they could dish it out, but they couldn't take it. They just didn't show that as obviously right off the bat. But that's another story. I was sitting down with one of the clients, white cat from Houston. Old fashioned conservative guy, right? He didn't know I was a brother. So he talked about going down to Brazil and all that. And I said, so how did you like it? And he said, well, he didn't tell me how he liked Brazil. He just said, the North and the South are really different from each other. They're almost not the same country. I said, yeah, I guess not. What's the major difference between them? I haven't been to Brazil, so I don't know. I'm learning something. And he said, well, the North is poor and it's blacker, but you'll have a great time in the South, though. It's like the opposite of the U.S. Mind you, he's from Houston. That's a southern city. And he's saying it's the opposite of the states who have a great time in the South. That's the way they thought. They just took it for granted that they're normal. Others aren't. Something's wrong with blackness. And that the North is poor because it's black. No, the North is poor because white folks are white. That's why the North is poor. And I'm going to always get on white Western civilization. I'm never going to exonerate them. And that's the other problem I've been having with some of these guys in these arguments. Some of them are like, no, we're not taking Pookie. I can agree with that. But the problem with them is that they turn around and they say on one end, we ain't taking Pookie. Yeah, okay, we don't need nigger culture. We don't need Ibnis and Pookie culture. True, fine. But then they start acting like, and white supremacy is not even a thing. It's not. Man, in 2011, do you all not remember that there was a white teenager with a black stepfather in Mississippi that drove over a black man with his truck and killed him because he just felt like killing a nigger? His stepfather was black, but he felt like killing a nigger. He's still in prison for it in Mississippi now. I hate to think what them brothers are doing to him behind bars. So I'm going to say this to those of y'all that are on that really ultra conservative end over there. You can sit up and say that we got to do better. That's true. We need to pull our pants up. We do. We need to become more literate in our first language, whatever it is. Yes, that's true. But we don't need to act like there's no such thing as white supremacy. You pull your pants up, you put on a suit, you speak the Queen's English and a bunch of other languages fluently. And when you get that racist cop that day, and you hope it never happens because it doesn't happen to everybody, but that day it does happen, you get that racist cop and he's going to beat the living shit out of you. He is not really going to check your suit, your tie. He's not going to ask you where you went to school. And you got some black cops that are like that. So don't act like white supremacy doesn't exist. I'm telling you, I sat with some of these white folks in these jobs when they didn't know I was black. Of course, they found out. But even then, when I had that job, we had to eat at restaurants each night because we were working away from home. I would go to these nice restaurants because I was paid enough to. Plus, some of it was covered by the as a work expense, a write-off. So I would go to these nice places to eat, and I did it specifically to listen to what wealthy, well-off white folks would say. And I would turn the microphone on, the extra sensitive microphone on my phone on, and put my little earpiece in. They thought I was listening to music. No, I was listening to their conversations. Them father muckers are still racist. And here's the other thing. All of them ain't like that. I know. The problem is, just like with these ladies that I've been telling y'all about, the wicked witches of the West, that make sure that with these wicked witches, they make sure that the women who don't mean you any harm are silenced. It's the same thing with white America. I know white folks. I've been spying on them. I'm telling you, when one of them is against this stuff, they silence that guy. They shame him. And Mr. Fantastic, yeah, that's true. Most of the time, most of us, it doesn't come for us. We know someone, everybody knows someone that day came for, though. I saw it happen to a friend of mine within a few feet of me. I tried to trip the cop when he started running after my friend. I was supposed to get killed. The cop was just so fast, he didn't even realize it. But no, we don't really give attention, far more attention to possibilities versus the realities and all the time, because we differ in our approaches to this too. But what I do want to explain is that, trust me, believe me, Mr. Fantastic, these folks are serious. They are upset about the few gains that we may have had. They're upset that Obama was president for 8 years. Yeah, he won the election. They're still ticked off about it. They are angry. And now a lot of them are angry that Trump is not racist and right-wing enough. And the other thing, too, is that they tried to export this stuff. They tried to export this to where I live. It wasn't that successful, but they tried. And to a certain extent, it's been met with a mitigated, limited success. I'll never forget one of my students that lived in California in his childhood, fluent English speaker, fluent Arabic speaker, told me, no disrespect, Mr. Black, but black people commit most of the crimes in America, don't they? I had to tell him, hey, man, look, the FBI begs to differ with you on that. I told him, now, number one, an arrest is different from a conviction. And everyone admits that black people get convicted more often with less evidence. That's been true. But as far as us committing more crimes, no. We may commit more crimes of opportunity, like financial opportunity. We may commit more crimes based on poverty. But when it comes to outright fraud and embezzlement, what they call white collar crimes, when it comes to child molestation, when it comes, I forgot what the other crimes were. I had them and I forgot them. The FBI will tell you, actually, they commit a lot. They actually lead almost exclusively in other crimes. But the point I wanted to make is that if you're on the side of the argument that says, leave them pookies behind, I'm with you, leave them behind. A truly reformed one, it may be hard to tell. I get that. That's what we have to debate. We got to debate about a standard, and I propose the Malcolm X standard for that reason. But an actual pookie, no, no, we can't have that. We can't have an actual pookie coming in with us, because he's going to commit crimes, not only crimes, but he's going to commit serious crimes with not only victims, but specifically black victims. Because we already know when they commit the crimes, they go after us. Black on black crime is a reality. It's not a valid deflection from police brutality, but police brutality is also not a valid deflection from black on black crime. These are two different things. You can be concerned about both of them. But internally, we're going to have to talk about black on black crime. Externally, we do have to talk to other people about police brutality. It's not either or. It's not pie. It's not pizza. Our time and our attention, our mental capacity is like pie or like pizza. It's limited. Sure. No biggie. Somebody starts a focus group for one. Someone else starts a focus group for the other. There's a proper way to balance this stuff. But when it comes down to this, we're going to have to understand that white supremacy is real. So, and I know because some of them sat down and talked about this in front of me when I was working with them. Some of them have said they're not a problem because they're too busy with each other. But when I mentioned a neighborhood once, I mentioned Cascade actually to when I was working this good job. There was a guy from black man, actually, Creole. He was also from the Gulf Coast. He asked me what it was like to live in Atlanta. I told him, and mind you, he and I are both from the Gulf Coast, and we're both Creole. But he knew I lived my adult life in Atlanta, and I told him the good and the bad. I told him how it used to be better in the 90s when I got there. And he was like, yeah, man, black. I heard that like you got these really nice neighborhoods and everybody in there black. I told him, yeah, Cascade is probably the most famous example of it. It's the one I live the closest to as well. You live there? No, I live close to it, or closer to it than the other ones. But yeah, I mean, you do have that. That's true. That part is true. But those were older families too. I told them, I was just letting them know. But there was another colleague that came and pulled my coat. He said, look, black, do they have security? And I told him, well, I haven't been there in a while, but why do you ask? And he said, well, and this white guy was from Mississippi. He had a Southern, plantation owner accent. He sounded like a Southern Civil War general, to be honest with you. That's what he sounded like. But he was actually one of those that he was not with the BS. And so he came and said to me, look, black, listen, I came to ask you for some more of your mom's brownies. And can I talk to you for a second? I said, yeah. And as he told me, look, if anybody asks why I'm here, I came to ask for the brownies. So that's why I'm actually asking, can I have one? Yeah, fine. But what you got to talk to me about? And he said to me, you told Salome about that neighborhood in Atlanta. It's like it's all black and it's middle class. Do they have security? And I said, I haven't been there in a while, but I don't think they have any specialized security. Why? What's going on? You know something? And he said, well, I know my people. And I mean, you sat and just in front of everybody. You told Salome about that. And I was just wondering if they have it because, I mean, you don't really need a whole lot to know that my people are crazy. And I said, well, it is Atlanta. So if somebody tried to pull something off, they could probably do it, but they wouldn't be able to get away. That's where the escape would be the difficult part. But thanks for letting me know, though. My parents know some people that live there. I could ask them to get in touch with their homeowners association to see about security if you really think it's necessary. And he said, I would have thought it was necessary during the last election, if ever at any time. So they're coming to me and telling me sometimes, but then there were others that would just say things in front of me, not knowing. And now living here in this Arab country, I hear them sometimes say certain things, not with hatred, but out of ignorance. So what I'm saying is we have to be ready to remove the internal filth. And to answer your question, Brother Johnson, yes, remove the unreformed pookies and remove the Uncle Toms. But it's going to be hard to define really who's an Uncle Tom sometimes. I mean, you can debate about what the definition is going to be, where that fine line is, just like we can debate about who's actually a reformed pookie versus who's not sufficiently reformed. So, I mean, I'm for leaving all of the, if you're a traitor, you're a traitor. I'm for leaving any traitor behind. It's just a question of how do you pick them out? Because in all honesty, everybody has to deal with the fact that every ship has its rats. And I'm all for leaving traitors behind. It's just that nobody is perfect at identifying them and throwing them out. That's all. So next up, getting back to this argument about the pookies. Oh, really, the reformed pookies. Ain't no argument. You can't take an unreformed pookie with you. But the argument is going to be where that standard is. On the flip side of it, I have actually heard some people that are pro-black, just like me, say things that were historically speaking not true. And I want to say to pro-black people, okay, we pro-black, pan-African, and we should be. I get it. Because when these Arabs call us slaves, they don't call black American slaves and make an exception for the Nigerian or vice versa. They call you slave because you are black. If you're a black Emirati, if you're a black Kuwaiti, a black Qatari, a black Omani, a black Saudi, a black American, black Nigerian, if you're a black Moroccan, if you're a black South African, they call us slaves. They don't even hate us. They still call us slaves because they got used to it. That's just, I'm just saying that that's the type of, brainwashing to which they've been subjected. That's all. That's what I'm getting at. So we have to understand that we are dealing with external forces that are against us. That is true. Most of the world does seem to be united against us. These people here don't hate us, but they still tend to forget that we're equal, even though they come from us. You go into Southeast Asia, they don't hate us. I've been to Malaysia, and I know homies that have been to the Philippines and Indonesia. Some of them actually like black folks better than they like white folks over there. But they still got the brainwashing because skin bleach still sells. So it's good that you understand that. But those of you on the more pro-black side of the argument, number one, you have to understand you can't take a pookie with you because pookie ain't necessarily pro-black. The second thing we got to understand is that a lot of our historical understanding of facts is not real. I used to be a history teacher. We have a lot of misconceptions. We don't come from Egypt. And that's one of them. We're not Kemites or ancient Kemetics. We're the descendants of them. Some of us, the Dogon came from them, but we weren't snatched up from the pyramids and then brought into America. A lot of us are fake woke, meaning ignorant woke. You want to be woke, but you don't know stuff. Yes, we do come from Africa. No, we were not only the original Native Americans. The original Native Americans included some Africans that had come across the ocean before Columbus made his trip. We were not all of the Americas was not looking like us. No, we're not genetically different from Africans, except to the extent that some of us got raped or married some other people. And you can find that even in Africa along the coastline. So the admixture is not always that different. We got a lot of these things we've been preaching that ain't true. And we do sound dumb as hell when we get up to debate. See, both of us got these extremes. But when you actually study history, both extremes sound stupid and sound retarded as hell. Yes, there's white supremacy. It's going to be there. You got to prepare for that. You build Zamunda, they're coming for you. They've already shown that. They've proven that over 250 furthermucking times in the southeastern United States alone. I used to think it was 19 when I was a history teacher. I had to learn that it was over 250 furthermucking times in the U.S. You think I can memorize 19 of the on that list? I certainly can't memorize 250. Somebody had to sit down and compile it. So they're coming for you. White supremacy is not a joke. Don't underestimate it. They're coming. On the flip side, we cannot sit up here and say that there's no such thing as white supremacy or that it's never going to have an effect. It will have an effect. We do the best we can. We're right to address white supremacy. We're also right to sit up and say, no, we ain't taking no unreformed pookies. Art Zuck is right. Even though Art Zuck is not black, he ain't from Africa. He's right. The gangster culture is also anti-black because when the crimes, especially, and when I say gangster culture, I'm not even talking about somebody that stole some food because they hungry or stole some shoes because they hungry. I'm taking off the theft of clothing, food, even car radios. I'm removing these things that people do because they need some money to eat. I'm not counting that. I'm talking about when a crime has a victim, and especially when the victim is black, because the gangster culture does not victimize white people. I know it doesn't. I lived in Atlanta and saw that. In my whole life, I saw one white guy chasing a black man because the man had stolen his wallet. Brother man was running. He wasn't even doing anything violent to the white dude. He just lifted a wallet and hauled ass. He didn't want to hurt anybody. I could tell he was homeless when I saw him. I could tell he hadn't had enough to eat by the way he was running. It's just that the white dude was a much bigger guy and he couldn't keep up. But see, I think I've preached enough of a sermon about that. And I would say, yeah, Mr. Johnson. And to be historically accurate, I want to give Mr. Fantastic credit for being historically accurate about this. Mr. Fantastic brought up that the actual Uncle Tom was not the one that betrayed his people, but that it was Sambo. Uncle Tom, we used as a character because Uncle Tom was not violent with white folks, but most of us weren't. So in reality, when we say Uncle Tom, I know what you mean. But I also want to explain. I want to point out that that the Uncle Tom in the book was not actually the race traitor. The rat bastard race traitor was the character named Sambo. So I'm going to speak historically accurately. What I'm going to say is that it's the Sambos today that is sitting up saying white supremacy doesn't exist. Yeah, we need to throw them out too. We can't take them with us. But then again, here's the thing. See, Brother Johnson, those people don't want to come with us. We start building up Zamunda and later Wakanda, Lord willing, and we're like, look, if you ain't pro-black, I mean, if you're not, if you're not with us, you can't come. They're not going to want to come. They're not even going to trust us to do it, even if we do kick out the pookies and the drug heads, and they would do it. So let me see here. Let me read some of what you all have been saying. Yes, Mr. Webster, we're going to have to leave white culture behind. We lost our own cultures back home, so we're not going to be able to completely get them back. By the same token, we're going to have to build another culture. This is true. We're going to have to build another culture for ourselves. I don't really know what framework to tell us to build it outside of Islam, because it's an inherent teaching in Islam that if your culture has something destructive, you have to throw it out. That's just an inherent teaching. And one of the things I'm going to say is what Arzuk said. We got to visit other places, because see, right now in Southeast Asia, they don't hate black people, but they're hearing different things. And that leads me back to the ADOS and versus other black folks argument. We can say that we are like a nationality within a nationality. You could say that's ADOS or DOAS. I've heard somebody call it dealer, DEALA, descendant of enslaved Africans living in America. That's fine. I mean, we are a distinct cultural group. That's true. And we're very closely related, culturally speaking, to the ones in the Caribbean. We're also very closely related to the ones in Sierra Leone and Liberia on their coastlines. We're closely related to the Dogon, culturally speaking. We're closely related to the Yoruba, the ones that live on the coast and in the interior of Nigeria. We're closely related to them. We're closely related to the Fulani. So we are a distinct group that was forced by outside circumstances to become our own group. We're like a super tribe because we're a mix of every other tribe within Western and Central Africa. If we're just honest about it. But see, by the same token, man, we can't sit up here and start, big up Liberia. We cannot sit up here and start acting like they're our enemies, because they're not. So we have to understand, again, the history. The grudge between continental Africans and African Americans did not get started because of Ghanaians. It didn't get started because of Malians. It didn't get started because of the Liberians or the Sierra Leoneans. It got started not even because of the Nigerians. It got started because of one specific cultural group in the Lagos metro area of Nigeria. Nobody else. And if you ask them, they'll tell you. Because most of them today, they ain't with that mess, but their parents were on that BS. One group, but because their country had a big population, and Lagos is one of the biggest cities on the continent, and a lot of them came from there, it was easy for many of us back in the States in the 1970s and 80s to meet somebody from there who thought they were better than us. See, if you meet a Fulani from the north of Nigeria, they don't think they're better than African Americans and look down on us. Now, they do see us as having been through something unfortunate, but they'll take you as you come. You come in swaggering, pants sagging ass, idness, but that's how they're going to look at you. But you come in, wearing clothes that fit as much as you can afford. You talk like you got some sense and you treat them well, that's how they take you. And so we have to understand that now we're sitting up here taking on a grudge that was actually started by Yvette Carnell simply because her lifestyle is not conducive. It doesn't jive with black folks anywhere outside of the West. That's why. And I'm not going to sit up here and be a party to that. Because when I'm here and when I'm in this Arab country and I pass by one of my own whether he's a citizen, whether he's an immigrant from another country, from the continent, wherever he's from. When I pass them by, they don't know that I'm one of them, but I can see them and I could tell that he looks exactly like my cousin. He looks like my uncle. He looks like my dad's friend. This is one of my own. He just doesn't know it. I mean, he knows what he is. He just doesn't know that I'm the same thing. You want to reach out to your own when you're abroad, and you have that opportunity. So don't let these folks come along and use a descriptive term to divide you. You don't want that, because we don't have a solution inside the United States, to be honest with you. If you really want to know the truth, there is no solution. There's a reason that Kamala Harris was picked by Joe Biden. There's a reason that Joe Biden was picked over Bernie Sanders. There's a reason for it. Whatever is a solution for us in the States is going to be squashed early on. The solution for us is a president that's going to call off all wars in Muslim areas so that you don't look bad to other people. That's going to pardon every black political prisoner from the 60s and 70s because we were right and white folks were wrong. Pardon Jamil Al-Amin, used to be H. Rap Brown, because the evidence is that he didn't do it in the first damn place. This is the real. These actual solutions have been squashed all the time. And I've heard some people tell me we're never going to allow these solutions, or my people will never allow these things to happen. A white Canadian told me, I'm not even American black, but I know that white America's never going to pay y'all reparations. They'll go in debt, they'll go bankrupt, but they would not pay you reparations. Because even if they go bankrupt, they don't want a poor white America and a wealthy black America. They can't stand the thought. Now, he's a Canadian telling me this. Telling me how white Americans think and what they won't say in front of us. Granted, I already knew this, but what I'm telling you is that some of them will come and confess to you, like the guy from Mississippi and the colleague from Canada confessed to me. This is serious. So we can't take these divisions. We can't afford these divisions. And when we go abroad, what percent of the world's black population is American, is ADOS or FBA or DOAS? And I just mean descriptively speaking, not politically. I mean, what percentage of the world's black population is American? I don't know, but it's something very small, something minuscule just among black people. Stop and think about that. Can you really afford to be somewhere like, let's say we wind up having to leave, and we might not be able to, because most countries don't want us in our passports, to be honest with you. Most of them do not. The Emirates just opened up to American passports just now. The rest of the Gulf nations have said, if you come with a US passport, we're putting you back on that plane. You're going to sit on that plane while it refuels and while they clean it. You ain't coming. Don't even approach the customs desk a second time. As a matter of fact, you can't even board those flights. They ain't playing. So let's say we have to leave the States at some point. Do you really want to be in a position where they look at you and they keep you at a distance because you're American, but then all the other black people keep you at a distance because you're American? Did you really want that? You can describe different black people because we're diverse. We cannot afford to divide us. The world does look down on us. That is true. We cannot afford this. So that being said, next thing I want to discuss to a certain extent is going to be Kamala Harris. This is where you guys come in. Because in all honesty, I don't know everything there is to know about Kamala Harris. I'm still learning. I just learned that she pronounces her name Kamala instead of Kamala a few hours ago. So this is where you all come in. Y'all can tell me like what good she's done, what bad she's done. I just want to be fair to her. But there's a point at the end of it. There's a point I want to make to you all about why she got selected anyway. And I'll know more about that after y'all tell me whatever y'all know about her. Because I'm hearing things, I'm hearing different kinds of things, and I can't get the documentation right now. My printer's out. But, y'all let me know what y'all know about her. Mr. Fantastic, I guess it's morning time. Good morning, sir.
Same to you, brother. Thank you.
Gladly, sir. I'm glad that I could get you on. I meant to take the blame earlier. It wasn't, I'm the one that was to blame for BGS's video about the out of wedlock birth rate in Chile. That was on me. I mean, he put the video out. I didn't know he was going to do it on Chile, but that was based on something that I had told him about how we weren't really the worst group of people in the world. We just had the worst reputation because we get away with less stuff. But that in actuality, and it was a long conversation, but I mentioned how when you go abroad, you begin to see how trifling people are that don't make it out of their own countries. Like where I am, you got some really trifling Gulf Arabs. They can barely read their own language. You don't see trifling Indians in the U.S. or Canada, but you see them in India. I was having that discussion with him and some others, and I mentioned how the out of wedlock birth rate, even though we're famous for it in certain places, like especially in Muslim areas, we're known for that. But in actuality, Scandinavia led the world last I had read. And so when I mentioned that, I didn't know that he was going to do Chile later, but he stumbled on it. So it was actually in response to a conversation we'd had. It wasn't necessarily to dump on black folks to say that we can do better and we have to make better decisions. I never heard him say that we had to take the most ignorant ones with us if we're going to build something new. Just to be fair, I never heard him say that. I heard some other people that he knows say that, but I never heard BGS specifically say that. But anyway, I wanted to ask and give y'all a chance to teach me about Kamala and Liberian girl that said that she's imprisoned many poor and working class people in San Fran when she was DA for offenses such as school truancy. And since you're on, let me know whatever you know about Kamala, good, bad, in between. Please tell me, educate me, because this is y'all's chance to tell me.
Yeah, man. So it's not really much good. She's been a person that would, I guess, black women would accuse of black fishing. They just released her birth certificate, and her mother claims to be, I think, white and something. And she herself identifies. Shout out to Top Cats. Top Cats did it. She ran the first time. She identified as Asian. So this is a woman who, dodged her blackness her entire life until this later on, this latest run for political power. And she's not black. You know what I mean? She's of African descent, but her father is, I think, Jamaican or some type of Caribbean. I forget what it is, but I'm pretty sure I'm positive her father's from Caribbean, and again, her mother is of mixed Indian lineage. So she has like a Caribbean background. So as far as Liberian girl hit it, one of the biggest things was she was pretty much destroyed in the debate for the presidential run by Tulsi Gabbard, and she exposed to her like the black people were like some of the absolute worst sufferers of her policies and her very, very aggressive prosecutorial practices versus black people in the state of California. And she was hard on things. Now we know California is one of the biggest states that are trying to decriminalize and take advantage of legal marijuana. There are dispensaries and things out there like that, but she still, even once she knew before we would ever they had those things and those ideas on the books. She still refused to reduce sentences or relook at cases that had some of the smallest drug offenses. So this is pretty much, like I said, man, I called this months upon months ago, not even months. It's been at least over a year now. Who I said I knew she was going to be the vice presidential candidate because she wasn't strong enough to run for president. No one America's not going to let a black woman run the country before they let a white woman do it. Just not going to happen. But to shore up and give back those feels, that nostalgia of the Obama ticket, they just reversed it. And even more so now with this, extreme feminist culture, along with the blackness thing, since she's trying to play that, to shore up the black vote even more for a lot of black men that are leaving the Democratic Party. It was just the best move. Like I said, I saw it from day one. So I called it the reverse Obama ticket. And that's pretty much all it is, bro.
I'm going to ask a question about. It's an opinion related question, but it's a question about a standard that was used to pick Obama by Black Americans that is now not being used to choose Kamala Harris when they go to the polls. I should say when our people go to the polls. You can probably guess what this question is already, but what runs through your mind when you heard sisters before saying, look, Obama had to have an African-American white for us to vote for him. And then now you hear them saying, well, we should get behind Kamala Harris regardless of her husband not being even partially questionably black.
Again, man, like you said, that goes to one of the biggest mental holes that I don't think black women are willing to admit into. Black women have always wanted to be with white men. I mean, it's just data and books and everything that goes to show it. That the reason why they always get on us and try to treat black men as if we're inadequate is because they see the men of their dreams with white skin. All right, no matter what you do, even like well, you ain't making no white man money. You ain't got this kind of money. You ain't got this. You ain't got that. You ain't, what I'm saying. You ain't running no business. You don't got your own company. You're not this. You're not that. Even when you do, achieve the American dream of success, from a financial or whatever other standpoint it may be. So, of course, man, it was no way, even though, like I said, Obama himself isn't black. He's a African, you know what I mean? And again, I know Liberia girl said something earlier about separation, but I mean, to be honest, man, it's everybody else separates more than American people do. That's just the God honest truth. Everybody else, Africans especially, will quickly let you know that you're not African. They will quickly let you know, no, you're not one of us. You don't have a culture, you don't have a tribe, you don't have a language, you don't have any, you don't know your lineage, you don't know any of the things. So for you to try and claim as African, you would be quickly rebuffed and embarrassed by trying to do so. Which is and like you said, a great point you made as far as the historical origin of black people. It's a lot of I'll say false information that get put out here about the origin and everything of us, and like we were all slaves, or we were the original people here on the on North America, and like you said, both of those things are just untrue on so many levels, but very few people go to do the research to understand it. And I think we have a whole lot of sensationalism when it comes to I guess us. You know what I mean? Which should be understood, because everybody wants to be exceptional, right? Everybody's an exceptionalist to themselves. But unfortunately, man, when it comes to the whole Obama thing versus Kamala Harris, Obama, even though he was half African and half white, he had to bow down to that black woman. Point blank, period. Black women are not going to get behind a black man that dates out. That's their ultimate revenge. If no matter how attractive you are, no matter how smart you are, no matter how rich you are, if you have that white woman, black women will take that as the ultimate betrayal. And and it comes of it, like I said, unfortunately, Barack Obama, from my understanding, had a similar, Martin Luther King-esque attitude when it came to his women. You know what I'm saying? So his heart and everything was truly to white women and whatnot. But from a political standpoint, he understood that, hey, if I'm going to ever make it here in politics, and I'm deciding to run for president is not something somebody just does overnight. He understood that it was no way he was ever going to be able to run for president with a non-black wife and spouse.
Okay. And now I'm going to have to roll with Liberian and E Smooth about when they say not all Africans and not all West Africans. When you said that Africans will quickly let you know you're not Africans, did you find them coming from the same place or anything that they all had in common? Since apparently Africans are going to have take different takes on it.
Yeah, well, most of the Africans I deal with, like I said, in my time over the military, would have been West. I come through very very few, but I find that East Africans are, I guess, more what's the word I want to say? Um, Even worse, I guess. They don't see themselves at all, and it even phenotypically you can see it. You know what I mean? They even look different. They don't even look like us. So I mean, they I'm not gonna say they see themselves as better, but there's a physical difference that you can tell. You know what I'm saying? So even they know that, like, it's totally different. So like I said, if you and I'm not saying it's disrespectful, but I worked with two African guys. One from oh man, where is he from? Oh, one's from Togo and one's from Kenya. Guess what, it was Kenya? That was Kenya. And yeah, man, they went through one of the guy from Togo. I think he has like the facial scarring and everything. Those serious things that black people would never ever understand. And if you told them to go over there and you had to tell them, hey man, we gonna take this spear, the tip of the spear, we gonna scratch your face. You know what I'm saying? You'd probably be some trouble coming your way. But yeah, they don't do it in a disrespectful way, but they ask the questions, and they really give like a quasi history lesson to show the separation between them and us. So again, I don't take it as a negative. I think it really is something that we need to focus on, because ultimately, like I said, the thing that's missing from African Americans versus Africans is, the place of origin which we all came from at some point. It's scientifically undeniable. Is the culture, the oneness. You know what I mean? Africans, stick with Africans. They have tribes. They believe. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna support each other. They're gonna help each other out. That's what we have to strive for, and we've never, for whatever reason, been able to get to it.
Okay. But you said that most of the ones you met were from the Western coast,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, West, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. What I found that, of course, most of the ones I met by number were also from the West when I lived in Atlanta in college. After college, I met them from specifically, after college, I met them specifically from Ethiopia, Liberia, and Nigeria more than other countries. Now, Liberia at that time only had 2 million people overall, so the number living outside was even smaller. It's just that a lot of them were in North Carolina and Atlanta. Some of them had just begun to move to Mississippi and Louisiana, but I was hearing about it. I didn't really see it. Actually, dude I know from Louisiana told me that Liberians remind Louisianans of themselves a lot. I don't know why. I haven't been able to ask both of them at the same time, but he mentioned that. And then when I went through Louisiana and spent some time there because I have relatives there, yeah, I saw some of the similarities in terms of like the food. I saw it there definitely, but I don't know who's been going around eating both of their food except for maybe me and a few others that in Atlanta. But what I saw was that when I identified myself as an African, and I didn't lie and say I wasn't African American, I just let them know, as an African, they had no issue with it. And my phenotype is actually more like a Choctaw than it is like anybody from Africa. But they didn't take any issue with it, except for again specifically Lagos metro area people. They weren't even from. I mean, it wasn't even Nigerians doing it. The Fulani had no issue with it. The Yoruba didn't. It was specifically people from Lagos metro area that had that crap to talk. One Liberian who was drunk got out of pocket one night at a party, and everybody else turned on him right off the bat. They kicked him out. Another one, let me see, another time a Tanzanian, he also got drunk. And I knew him. He was very Pan-African, but when he got drunk, he started calling me out my name. And the Liberians got a hold of him and they kicked him out the apartment before I could reach him. But then again, he also walked into somebody's room while he was in there with his girlfriend too. So just to show you, he doesn't remember any of this stuff to this day, I'm sure. But I didn't, I was trying to find out who was sitting up saying that we African Americans were Akata and lost and wild animals and things like that. I was trying to find out who said it, and I couldn't find any Liberian saying it. I couldn't find any East African saying it. So I'm not going to ask you which city you're in, because I understand you're from Georgia and you live at least part-time on in one of the eastern coastal states. But when you were in the military, which state were most of these Africans in that were telling you you're not African?
Nah, I let it be known, man. It's no secret. I'm in Norfolk, Virginia right now. I've been stationed here twice. This is my second time around. I was stationed here from '06 to '08, and then I've been up here since 2016. The second time around. What the first time I met an African, I think I was I'm pretty sure I was in Virginia, because I started out in Pax River, Maryland. I've been East Coast my whole career. So I started out in Maryland, then I came to Virginia, and like that was the first time I ever had an interaction with like an African guy, was Virginia. And Virginia, by the way, Virginia is like the Navy capital of the world. So like I'm pretty sure it's the largest naval base in the country. So you're going to see everybody, you know what I'm saying, here eventually. So the that's when and like I said, this here recently happened where I had the conversation where I had the in-depth interaction with Africans was I say within the last 6 years or so. I worked with this one dude for 3 years. That was the Kenyan guy. And then here shortly that's is where I am now. I'm with the guy from Togo and the other Kenyan guy. And I've had other interactions with other people, but like I said, they don't really for the most part, especially if you can tell like their first generation and whatnot, you know what I'm saying, or they came here directly to join the military to get citizenship and all those things. Um they really don't I'm not gonna they don't become Americanized. We'll just say that they don't pick up the bad parts of it because they're still holding to their culture and things. So and when they meet each other, even if they may be from a different country on the continent, they hey and if they speak the same language, they speak the same language and things. And to I wanted to make a point about the Louisiana thing. I think the Louisiana thing and the Liberian is because what the French, what I'm saying, the French influence, the Creole and whatnot. Louisiana has a lot of French heritage and culture, and just like most of the West African countries have that. So I think that would probably be the association or the commonality between the two.
But the Liberians were never colonized by the French. They were, I know they're next to Guinea Conakry, I believe, and that is a former French colony, Francophone nation. I've heard that there were a lot of Guinea Conakryans that lived in the interior of Liberia where the border is. But I do think that there must be some kind of tribal affiliation. I'm sure that the colonization has something to do with it. The only thing is, the French would have had to take people from Liberia before Liberia became an American colony, if that was going to be the case. So it's not impossible. It's just very unlikely. But I have had some people say that one of them told me that Mississippi. I mean, I met a Liberian in Atlanta who had lived in Mississippi, and she told me that Mississippi reminded her of home. And so it seems to be a Gulf Coast thing overall. She said that she felt at home in Mississippi, and sometimes she would forget that she was in the States, and she would speak Liberian English to Black Americans and then catch herself and remember they don't speak that fast. And then she would see somebody white and remember, oh, okay, yeah, I'm in Mississippi, not necessarily Liberia. But I'll probably ask some more of them about that. Liberian girl, she may know something about it because she said something in the comments she said something in the comments about it. My ex, one of my exes from before I became Muslim, she actually was mistaken. She came to visit me in Atlanta at one point, and two of my colleagues, my classmates, they saw me through the window and they saw me with her, and they started to speak to her in Loma, in their language, because they didn't think just that she was from Liberia. They thought she was from their exact tribe, and identical. And I actually could see it because I was looking at them through the window and then looking at her. I said, "Oh my God, they look like they're related. That's why they're doing it." So I had to tell her, they're saying, "How are you doing?" And she answered, "Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good." She answered in English, and they said, "Wait, you're not from Lofa County?" Because that's the name of where they come from. And she said, "No, I'm from the same place he's from." "You're from Louisiana?" "Yeah, yeah." And so sometimes there is a resemblance, but that's not specific to like Louisiana and Liberia per se. I went to South Africa in 2018, and I saw your twin. He was one of the tour guides. Your twin, Mr. Fantastic. And we're not even from South Africa. We're from Western Central Africa, you see. But I also saw my cousin too. He was another tour guide. And then I saw somebody from my old neighborhood. He was working at the hotel, and he drove us around for security reasons. He didn't want us to go certain places by ourselves. When I flew into to KwaZulu Natal, I saw again some people that looked just like classmates from my childhood, people from the neighborhood. So we do have a lot of resemblance. That's true. It's just not. I can't necessarily pin that on like this state resembling particularly that country, except there are some people in the Gulf Coast with the last name Senegal, like that's their family name, and like two or three generations back, you would see photographs of them, and they looked like the Wolof people, but they were taken from there. The French actually did grab people, and they grabbed people from Senegal, Gambia, and Mali, and that's where the Creoles come from. So to a certain extent, yeah, you could say that on the Gulf Coast they're going to resemble people from Gambia, Senegal, and Mali, but usually, no, I really can't say. Like one state has a particular resemblance to a particular country back home. But from what you said, when they tell you that you're not African, um, they say that that you said that they're not really rude about that.
No. It's not rude. It's not rudeness at all. It's not rooted in any type of bad energy or negativity. Is just like, hey, we're just not the same. It's not. I mean, we know, and like I said, knowledge. Hey, we know that you're African at some point. You have to definitely have some African lineage by all means. But to say that you're African is just not. And I have one of these guys that I wouldn't call him a pro. Well, nah, he's definitely a pro-black, but and I would say almost a hotep. And that's actually where one of the conversations happened, because he likes to say that he's African when I think he's actually from definitely from Caribbean descent, right? His parents were Caribbean. He grew up there, and then he moved to the States. And they pretty much, like I said, just in a very, very nice way broke it down to him, the difference in things. And that's why I came to have my understanding of it, because at one point in time I was like, well, yeah, we all African, but no, we're not. So like I said, that's me hearing it from Africans themselves. Like I said, no mal intent, even though they can hit you with their kata shit and and get mad, at some point in time, to where but everybody has their the buttholes of their society, or the the people that just don't care. So yeah, every time I had it, man, like I said, I haven't had any really negative run-ins with Africans, but by all means, like I said, I definitely heard them, uh give the reason why we're different.
Yeah. Did they say the same thing about the differences between them and African Caribbean people?
Yeah,
Did
as
they
far
talk about that with you?
yeah, that's the conversation they had with him. I wasn't privy to it. He was explaining to me, because I heard him say the thing, right? I heard him say about we're African, and the other African dudes weren't there to there, but I just told him, like, yeah, bro, we're not. And then he said, oh, that's interesting, because the African dudes told me the same thing. We dove into it a little bit, and I was like, well, where are you from? Yeah, he said he's from the Caribbean. I forget which part of the Caribbean he's from, but he's from the Caribbean. And I'm like, yeah, because even though you say that, everybody always says this, man. I don't know. I've had women, and especially women from Africa, come up to me and they're like, oh, are you from? And I'm like, no, I'm not. No. I'm like, I'm from Georgia. I'm from Macon, Georgia, born and raised. Like, I could have swore you was African. And it's like, I guess I'm a good ass looking African dude. no matter,
Well,
no matter how, no matter how ugly I am as an American, I guess I'll be a good looking African, because African women always say, no, are you not? Oh my God, I thought you were, what I'm saying? And this is like especially like West African females, like they always like, I could have swore you were. So it's funny to me.
now let me ask this: do you have any Gullah or Geechee people in your ancestry, man? I know you said you're from Macon, but do you have any of the coastal people in your ancestry that you know of?
Most definitely, yeah. From my dad's side, because my dad's side is Caribbean, and I think the they super country, man. And I think somewhere down the line on my mom's side, but it's very, very faint. But yeah, my dad's side, most definitely.
Okay, then on your dad's side, I'm not going to be able to say exactly which tribe, but what I can say is that more than likely they came from what's called the rice coast of Africa. That's actually Sierra Leone and Liberia. And most of them speak the Mende languages, because the Gullah and the Geechee, they can trace back linguistically. They were already traced back to that, specifically that rice coast. But the other thing too was that when the British were taking them there, they actually did keep records at one point. They stopped doing it, but it was one time when they did keep records as to where they were taking who from. So they didn't necessarily want African Americans to feel a tribal affiliation. But when they were buying people that had been kidnapped, they would say, well, I want an Igbo, or they would say, I want someone from the Rice Coast. They may not specify the tribe, but they would say the Rice Coast as an example, or I want someone from the Gulf Coast, or they might specify the tribe and say, I want someone that's in the Khan. But usually they did not request the Wolof, the Soninke, and the Bambara. They usually didn't request them; they just got them, but they didn't ask for them specifically. But yeah, so you now you can trace back to a specific you can trace back to a specific region at this point. So now that we understand, okay, not everybody's going to be considered equally black, and I know that's not going to happen now. I mean, I get it. Kamala Harris, blackfishing, saying she's not black, but previously, and then turning around saying she is. What do we know about Kamala Harris's track record and what she's going to do for black people? I mean, as far as where you live, what are most black folks saying? Get behind her, or most of them saying, no, she don't cut it?
Well, I haven't heard anyone really outside of the internet, man. I don't hear anybody speaking about her. Nobody ever really. But her biggest thing from a national scale where black people got attention was, of course, when she went on the Breakfast Club. You know, when she went on the Breakfast Club, she was on some, some straight, I'm the blackest of the black women type thing. And then, like you said, people actually do, in this day and age we live in with social media, people, pretty much, fact checked her and found that she was full of lies. So that was a major turnoff, and she shot herself in the foot per se by doing that, because that made people listen to her that just like casual listeners, right? People that just listen to a morning radio show on their drive to work, or while they're working their day shift, hear all of these things that people came out with to refute her claims. And one of the biggest issues and problems was, like you said, she when Tulsi Gabbard doubled down, or not double, pointed it out, was like, this woman that went on the biggest national urban radio show in the country, and laughed about marijuana use while keeping black people in jail for marijuana possession or small marijuana charges, is just ridiculous. So as of now, man, all of my things, I have not been real life. I'll just give full disclosure on that. It's all been internet, and it has not been. It's been a resounding no for Kamala Harris ever since like she stepped on the scene as far as this presidential run. So I don't see it changing whatsoever. Just because now she's the vice presidential candidate.
Okay, so you're not hearing this in real life, then?
No. Nobody's really talking about her in real life. No.
Living over here, it seems like that's all people are talking about. I mean, even when my parents send me text messages at times, they're always talking about politics. Honestly, man, I got the impression that's all Americans were talking about, because on the news, you hear about family reunions being canceled behind politics, and you hear about political rallies and a fist fight breaks out or something like that. So I guess back stateside, really just walking around, people aren't really discussing it. They're just talking about everything else but politics and face to face, huh? Is that it?
Yeah, man. Nobody's on politics like that. I mean, you get the quote unquote Trump hate or thing or whatever, but especially since the pandemic, man, over here and the lockdowns, nobody's really been focused on politics like that, man. You had the whole, the entire Black Lives Matter thing happen. So politics is like really on the back burner especially in the black community. That those conversations aren't happening. Real life interaction between black people. You'll see them say something about Donald Trump being, I can't stand Trump. I can't stand him. And if you dare, delve into them and ask the question as to why, they can't really give you an honest explanation. They just go by whatever they see on the TV.
Okay. So they hear people, like a lot of people are against it because they heard somebody else was against her.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, it's the unfounded or unexplained party loyalty that black people have to the Democratic Party. Like I said, they want to make the president the most racist of all time, the most right. He's a different kind of racist white man compared to any other white man in the history of the United States of America.
Well, even though I don't support him, I can't say that he's much different from other racists. I see a difference between him and other presidents, but it's not as wide as what other people think, per se. I do see where he stands out among presidents specifically. I just don't know that it's as wide as what people say. And I do admit, I mean, see, as a pro-black, I've been ticked off when I saw things like this meme going around where his parents are wearing Klan costumes, and I saw the original photo; they were wearing suits. But people were saying he was wearing, or somebody photoshopped a Klan costume on his dad and his mom. Ironically, women didn't wear Klan costumes like that a lot, and so I understand. Okay, you could say that he's racist based on things that he's done, but you can't. You don't have to go and add a false image to try to bolster the claim, unless you say, this is a cartoon or something like that. But and granted, my hatred of him goes back to even before he was running for office, before he knew that he was going to seek the president's office. That was when my hatred came back, because I saw him on The Apprentice, and I saw certain personality traits in him that made him a bad leader of anything, whether it was politically or anything else. But it's not necessarily for the same reasons that everybody else is going to say. However, I don't understand why it is that our people are not taking our own platform. Why is it that we're following blindly, most of us, the Democratic Party, and others of us are blindly following the Republican Party, and we're not thinking about our own? What's the reason for it?
Again, man, unfortunately, it's just mental laziness. That's what I always give it up to. And you hit the nail on the head with we're cool with rumors, man. Unfortunately, this whole thing, and I had to make a correction on the video I did concerning the Chicago thing, because the first thing that was put out there, for the public is, this was some teenager, some teenage boy that was shot by the cops or whatever, and he did absolutely nothing wrong. When you come to find out, it was a 20-year-old adult male that fired at the cops, and the cops returned fire. So unfortunately, man, black people are cool with the rumors. You know what I mean? Anything that makes them the victim or gives them an advantage, they're cool with saying it and putting it out there as a reality, versus doing the actual work for the facts. And of course, it's not exclusive to just African Americans or black people, ADOS, whatever you want to classify it as. I just think, again, it's that whole they get the cold, we get the flu scenario. I just think, man, we take a lot of things to the next level. And then I know, like, going back to the point too, you was talking about other people are just as bad or whatnot. I know that also. My biggest thing is, like, why are we concerned with them? You can't use the worst traits of someone as a measuring stick for your community. That's always going to turn out bad, and that's what I constantly see. I constantly see us touting out pointing out the facts of the deficiencies of other cultures and things, and saying, oh, well, we're not the only ones, we're not the only ones, not the only ones. But then we don't take the exceptionalism or the extraordinary parts of it and point those out and see, okay, well, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? I mean, I guess it's just my competitive nature, man, to where I'm always striving to get better, than the day I was before. And I want to win. Ultimately, I want to win. So if I want to win, I'm never going to look at the deficiencies of somebody. That's blatantly easy and obvious to see. I don't need to work on the things that I'm already not doing. I need to work on the things that I can't do yet and improve upon those. And I know people think I'm crazy, or you're a coon, you're this, you're that. But I just look at this from proven winners, man. Black men first. I mean, the black man's approach to success. The most constant and most recurring proof of successful black men is to look and see what you aren't doing well and learn to do them better than the people that you saw doing them in the first place, because you have to. I admit to a lot of things you say. You're one of the most balanced guys I give on here. And I appreciate you for that, because you're able to be that even keeled factual voice. But I don't think a lot of people are you. And I think what we don't give ourselves our honest assessment is that it's a lot of people looking for excuses. So if you put the excuse out there, they're gonna bite that first, because they get to take the excuse and not take the hard road. Be it rooted in the atrocities of slavery or whatnot, and our treatment in this country. All of those things are fine and dandy, but as men especially, you have the choice to make to, you know what I mean, go past that. I could be and say, oh, it's all the white man's fault and it's all this, that, and the other, and all these different things. But true indeed, okay, what do I win from that? Now I'm just a victim, and now I'm just blaming somebody for when I could know the reality, and that I'm in the pool of sharks, right? Or in the den of snakes, and I could just, still do my job in spite of. Yeah, it's a chance I can get bit. Yeah, it's a chance I can get eaten alive. But if I know that's going to be my circumstances anyway, why focus on that when I could still be, working to get better in the meantime, in between time? Because if I'm going to get bit, no matter what I do, I'm going to get bit. And ultimately, like I say, if I get strong enough, I'm able to take myself out of that den, or out of the, or out of the pool. And that's my whole approach to thing. And I just think because of my delivery more so than anything else, people don't care to understand it. And then too, I'm just ultra competitive, and people will never understand that.
Well, thank you for the compliment, and may Allah make me of those who earns it. And thank you too, V Dub Boogie. I do try to be balanced, and that is the intention. So I'm glad to hear that apparently that's coming through. Being competitive is not in and of itself right off the bat imbalanced. If someone calls you a coon, I don't know that it's going to be based on I don't know that it's going to be based on the competition. But what I do see is that people that are competitive usually have a particular mindset of self motivation, and self accountability. Whereas when people are not, that's going to be one outlook. What I see is that commonality. People that will push themselves have a particular mindset. That's what I'm getting at. And they'll say, well, if I can do it, then and it's important and it's necessary to do, then I should. And then of course there are going to be people that will say, well, I'm actually coming across these roadblocks, and they're not up in front of everybody else. I'm coming across the ones everybody's got, and then the ones other people don't have. So what's in it for me? I see this happening with a lot of I see this happening with a lot of folks. Usually there's no conversation in which both of them are mentioned as being realities. And that's why it is that people fall off. They're going to fall on one side, they're going to fall on the other. And they're going to say, okay, see, no excuses on one hand. And then on the other hand, they're going to say, yeah, I'm actually dealing with this, and this is a rigged game. So you know what? I'm not playing a rigged game. Y'all, bye-bye. You can say the last thing I said. You can say, well, this is a rigged game and I'm not playing it, but you still got to find another game. Everybody's got to do something. And so we have to find another game. I'm one of those that's going to say both. Yeah, push yourself, because you're going to get better when you do it. I became one of the most, I'm not going to say best teachers, but I became one of the most sought after teachers in this province because of how I approached simplifying the English language as a second language. Wasn't because I speak it better than every other teacher. It wasn't that. It's just I looked and I said, okay, well, I'll go ahead and try to learn as much Arabic as I can to see what mistakes are going to be the easiest ones for them to make. When I did it, then the students said, oh, okay. When I was able to see why they made certain mistakes, I could explain, okay, this is going to be the opposite of Arabic. The next is going to be the same. It's going to be a word for word translation. Then it would say, oh, okay, well, let me switch the order here and then write this sentence down with a word for word translation. And so, but you got to push yourself to do it. But on the flip side, when some other teachers say, hold up, you went and learned Arabic. Now, when I try to learn, I came across this, and this. And I would have to say, okay, now those are valid concerns. But on the flip side, once you know that these are valid concerns, at least let me tell you how you can get around them. Now, if the person lets me tell them how to get around these concerns, because you do have a lot of people here that don't speak their own language correctly, and they dumb as hell. And they really think that if you just spend time with them, you're going to start understanding what they say in 4 hours. Like, there are people here that really are that stupid. And then when I say to them, okay, yeah, you're dealing with that. That's true. So I'm going to tell you where you find folks that can actually explain it to you better. If they let me explain it to them, then I know this is a person that really did go through these roadblocks and he didn't know a way around. But if they don't let me explain it to them, then I realize, okay, this is somebody that needs to be a little bit more, I guess you could say, conservative in their view. They need to start pushing themselves more and take fewer exceptions. Take fewer excuses, because a valid excuse is for something you cannot do or something you didn't know about. It's not for something you just won't do. You see what I mean? Did that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And again, like I said, by all means, man, I don't mean for the person that's never picked up a weight in their life to deadlift and squat 400 pounds. By all means, that's unrealistic, and you're setting them up for failure. But I do need you to pick up that 25-pound weight to begin with. And like you said, you gave like you just bolster our compliments in balance and bouncing off. And I don't think a lot of people understand problem solving. You know what I'm saying? You're a great problem solver. I'm pretty sure you hear this a lot. And just like I said, just to hear you go through and break down the your thought process, even on things we may disagree with, but again, you take point for point for point for point for point and say, okay, well, if you're thinking about this here, all right, I can consider this here. And if you're coming from here, okay, well, maybe we're leaving out this here. A lot of people can't do that. So that's why I say I connect, and a lot of men connect with you easily because, again, like, oh my God, this man is speaking like a man. I don't have a problem whatsoever with any of your critiques. I love it when you give them, because when you do it, like I said, man, it's extremely concise and very, very easy to understand. It just may be your gift from Allah, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Everybody doesn't have that. And maybe some of you, I don't even think you could study to be. That's just your natural gift or talent. You know what I mean? If I mean, I hope you're not offended by that. But
No, thanks for the compliment.
yeah, but like you said, man, and when you try to take the time to show somebody the way, and I'm not you as far as the my demeanor and my temperament, and you are extremely calm dude, because I done heard you I said I done heard you have to threaten somebody's life plenty of times, but even in you saying you had to do that, it never you're able to deliver, you know what I'm saying, when a person that's even killed and always calm and cool come to you and say, hey man, look, I'm sick of whatever you're doing, you're going too far. People really know that it's a problem. But with a person like me, they'll just take it as, oh, he's always like that. He's always just jumping off the doors and the rails and whatever. So I'm not, and I might have to actually get physical to show somebody like, nah, man, I'm really serious though, bro. You're not hearing me. Like, for real, this ain't just me being animated or me being energetic or me being competitive. Like, you overstepped the line. So, like, I'm gonna need you to stop, like, right now. Oh no, I'm not. Okay, well, if I'm not gonna talk to you no more. Now we're gonna have to get physical. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's a real crazy blend of variables and circumstances as to why and how people may or may not understand you. But I think the biggest thing, man, is just the matter that most people, again, like I always say, look for the path of least resistance. I'm an electrician by trade. Out of these 17 years, I've only been shocked one time. I had probably, like, I think what is it? 400 and what 200 and some odd volts at 400 hertz go through my body all of a sudden, and I didn't even know what happened to me. You know what I'm saying? And this was like 15 years in. 15 years, never been shocked, never ever been shocked ever. And I finally made the first mistake of my life on the deployment in the Gulf, to be exact, in the Persian Gulf. I was checking something on the helicopter, and they got this big ass metal handle on the door. And
Cuss word.
I'm sorry, my bad.
I just said cuss word. I was amazed because I don't know what a hertz is, but I understand volts. And when you said metal handle and that many volts, I was shocked. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to interrupt you.
Oh
I
no,
was
yeah, but yeah, I had my hand on this big metal handle. You know what I mean? This big metal handle, and I touched it with I touched one of the wires or the end of the connections with it was either a multimeter or a screwdriver, one of the two. And I had my, of course, had my finger on the screwdriver. You know how you do, like, the one finger to, the one finger to, like, for whatever reason, rest on the screwdriver blade, the metal part. And I got hit so hard, I thought somebody was pranking me or playing with me, because it, like, somebody came up to me and punched me in my shoulder. And I had of course, I'm holding on, and I'm looking away and I'm looking up. So I'm thinking somebody just came up to me and just, like, like a grown man, hit me as hard as he could in my shoulder. I turned around ready to fight. Like, for real. I'm like, who would dare? And, like, my thing, like, who the hell would dare play with me like this while in the middle of me working? You know what I'm saying? What, and you, like, I'm about to fight somebody. Like, bro, don't play with me like this while I'm working. And of course, nobody was there. And it took me, like, all of 30 seconds to figure out what the hell, did somebody just run off or whatever? I'm like, nah, bro, you just got shot for the first time. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, it was it was you know, that experience as to where it's just a crazy thing for you to figure out or find out, even through just trial and error or finally making that mistake. You know, even as you know, no matter how long you are into life or you are into a trade or skill or whatever it may be. So that's I don't know, man. That's the best way I guess I can explain it. A lot of people just um you know, want that path of least resistance. That just like electricity works, everybody wants to get to ground. Everybody wants to get to where they're relaxed, they're happy. You know that what they say, fat, happy, and full, or whatever, right? You know what I mean? You
Yes,
just
yes.
go along your everyday life, do your routine, not have too much stress and all those other things, man. So you know that's the whole the aspect, I think.
There's a lot to be said for having. I mean, there's a lot to be said for that as a goal. A goal of having a situation that's low resistance and low stress. But we have to go through the stress to get to these goals. And so I guess it is easy for some people to get caught up in the stress and say, well, this is what life is about, the suffering and the hardship, and for others to get caught up in the goal and to say that's what life is about. It can be easy to fall off of the middle road and go into an obsession with either one or the other. It could be, but the truth is, I guess the thing that helps any of us, not just me, but anybody to avoid it, is I have to admit this is where parents came in. I saw my dad become more like this as he got older, and so I was able to just go ahead and take that particular middle road at a younger age because I saw him grow into it, and I try to teach it to my kids as well. I hope the message gets across. My son seems to be understanding it now because he's the oldest, but what I've seen with black folks, the black manosphere, black Republicans, black Democrats, what I've seen with everybody, most of our people, is again something that I saw even with these Arabs. The Arabs complain about how they're dominated by other groups when it comes to things like business and finance and economics. The only way they're really on top is if they leave Arab lands and they go into darker countries like South America, maybe South Pacific islands, and certain African countries. But other than that, they generally don't tend to dominate anybody else financially speaking. Even Gulf Arabs don't. They got money, but they don't necessarily tend to dominate in business. And they complain about this a lot. They've talked to each other about it, even in front of me. And so they have similar conversations to us. And what I noticed that was similar, culturally speaking, was one thing. I heard this with you on the panel when you jumped on BGS and when he got on you. And I heard this on many panels, mostly whenever large groups of black folks get to talking. And then if I turn on the news and I'm watching a bunch of Arab politicians debate as well, I see the same thing. They cut each other off. Everyone thinks he knows what the end of the other person's sentence is going to be. They cut him off. And consequently, not only does it lead to a sense of frustration just to listen, so I can imagine being in the debate, but it also leads to people assuming that the other person means what they don't mean. Or everyone assumes that the other one is more extreme down the spectrum than what they actually are. So the person that hears you say, well, George Floyd had some control over what was going to happen to him that day. They think you mean that he was supposed to die, that he should have died. But you said, I'm not saying he should have died. I'm saying that there was a way to prevent it, not using counterfeit bills. Now, I myself have said George Floyd could not have. I myself have said once that Officer Chauvin showed up, there was nothing George Floyd could have done because they knew each other, and Chauvin had it in for Floyd. But see, I also read a report that the so-called counterfeit bill turned out to not be counterfeit. You see, so I was going off what I knew, but it was the day before yesterday. I read another report that the officer named Lane that pulled the gun on him only did it because Floyd had his hands under the seat when they pulled up on him.
Yeah,
And
I posted that. I just interject real quick. I posted that thing, and the bills were counterfeit. I posted the New York Post posted the thing and the proof of that he was. That's why he had his hands under the seat. He was trying to hide the evidence of the other counterfeit bills.
okay, so I saw that one. I didn't know you posted it, but I saw it when I looked it up, and it was because of the panel. To be honest with you, because you mentioned the counterfeit bill, and I said, well, I read that it wasn't counterfeit, but if he's saying it's counterfeit now, when I read back in May that it wasn't, then somewhere in June or July, somebody must have found out that it was in fact counterfeit, or he didn't, meaning you, he didn't find out that there was a report that it was not counterfeit. So I went ahead and looked it up and found a more recent report that you actually they found 220s and 21s that were both counterfeit. He had been trying to hide them. As soon as he put his hands up, Lane took the gun off of him and just helped him out the car. And that Lane actually told Chauvin, we should not put any more weight on him. Just turn him on his back and wait till the ambulance gets here. So Lane is requesting the charges to be dismissed against him for that. But I learned that, just recently. I guess what I'm saying is that because people aren't doing that, what they're doing is they're making assumptions when the sentence is halfway done. Then, of course, we're not going to be able to communicate. And we're not the only ones like that. So I'm not saying that black folks are going to go to hell by ourselves. I'm just saying that, like, as you mentioned, it's worth it to know that we're not the only ones like this, so that we don't think that we're abnormal and overcompensate for an abnormality we don't have. But on the flip side, we can't use other people's failure as an excuse. We just have to know, okay, well, this might make us normal, but normal is not, we don't get away with being normal. So we got to get into a position where not only are we better than normal, but where we also get away with being as normal as anybody else. We got to get to one to get to the other. We got to go through Zamunda to get to Wakanda. And so when black folk learn to hear each other out more, and I don't mean like me because I talk a lot, but when black folk learn to hear somebody else out more who talks at a more reasonable length of time, then that's when we're going to start to understand how complex this thing really is, because one person's going to see it from the southern side. Another one's going to see it from the western side. It's like arguing over an elephant, but you blind. If somebody was on the other side of the elephant and they felt the trunk, you don't lie and say, well, nigga, you lying. They don't have a long nose like that. You don't say that. You simply say, okay, well, what end were you at? Where did you see that? Oh, well, I was on this end, and there was there was a long nose and two tusks. And another one says, well, the tail is really small. Well, no, it sounds strange, when you describe it. When two blind men describe it, you wouldn't believe it. But when you actually see the elephant, you realize, yeah, it's got a really, really small tail. It itself is really big, and its nose is big, and it might have some tusks. It sounds strange, but that's actually what it looks like. But we're not going to be able to understand as blind men what the elephant really looks like until we let the other person describe, and they let us describe, each one of us, what we came across, to get a mental picture of what it is. Because what we're dealing with is an elephant. And the elephant meaning, when I say what we're dealing with, I mean us holding ourselves back, as well as other people being willing to hold us back, even if they don't hate us. Like whether it's white supremacists that are foaming at the mouth, they can't stand melanin, or if it's just somebody like, let's say, maybe a Taiwanese that doesn't hate us, they just don't want us doing better than them. Whichever was the case, we got to know what it is. But you traveled and you can tell people certain things about certain places that they can't tell you. And I can do the same. But right now, you can tell me things about the United States within the last 6 years that I could not tell you. You can tell me certain updates that have happened, and I wouldn't know about it unless you or someone else sat me down. If you're telling me this has changed in the last 6 years and it takes you 30 minutes to tell me, but I asked the question, I need to fuck the shuck up until you're done. And it's the same. Like if you're asking, okay, well, what can we do outside the country? I would have to tell you, okay, first, this is the region of the world I know about, and these are the opportunities I know about. And I'd have to finish to give you a complete picture. But when we getting on these panels, a lot of times, what I'm hearing is everybody's cutting everybody else off. And in all honesty, man, let's say we fix that and the Arabs don't. All of a sudden, we're more coordinated because we can communicate better. We're not smarter, we're not stupider. We can communicate better than they can. So we're more coordinated because we can communicate. Now, all of a sudden, we can dominate them in business because we can plan complex things with less effort. That can go a long way, in all honesty. I think that's what we're missing, honestly.
Yeah, we don't have the best communication skills. Again, man, I'd say it's a running joke I have right now. I think you call them the INDS types. they don't math well and they don't word well. And I think you gave a great explanation of people not understanding our own language. We've slangified things, so much in the English language that people don't understand that, when you have, and it's not even you trying to be, the smartest guy in the room or be some elite of the intelligentsia or anything like that. It's just like, brother, that's not what that means. Do you understand? If you say to me this, and this, and I understand the English language, what you're telling me is this. Well, that's not what I meant. Well, brother, I can't understand what you meant if that's what you said. And it's not even me trying to be, overly technical. And I think, people take offense to this. I remember I was on O'Shea's, and a brother was using a word improperly. And I was genuinely telling him, hey, man, that's not the word you want to use. You want to use this word. And he's, oh, shut up, nigga. You know what I mean? And I'm like, all right, man, whatever. You just want to be ignorant then and be, well, I'm stupid. Because after ignorance is not knowing. But after I tell you something and you continue to do it, now you're stupid. If you want to be stupid and keep improperly using the word, brother, by all means, go right ahead. I just try to help you. You know what I'm saying? Not like no type of no type of malice, no type of me trying to grandstand on you or stunt on you. You feel me? And a lot of times, man, people just don't, they don't take well to correction. Especially us, we just don't, and men on top of that, like, oh my God, well, actually, black women are even worse than the men. But man to man, we always feel like somebody's trying to stunt on you or somebody's trying to, like grandstand. And that's not the case. And when it comes to communication, man, that's the most essential part, like you said, of anything. Like even for deaf or blind people, the most important part is learning language, because without language, we can never ever understand each other. And the art of conversation is just so lost on us. You know what I mean? I feel like, and it's in again, you use the cold versus flu scenario. We're already at a disadvantage, and instead of us trying to build up our acumen of communication and understanding it, it always devolves down into unfortunately the nigga shit. You know what I mean?
What do you think of Icare's statement? It's the hypocrisy in dude's arguments. He uses innuendos and conjecture to make a point and accuse the retort of being innuendo and conjecture. Do you see that much? Because you're on panels more than I am.
Okay, let me see. Use innuendos and conjecture to make a point and accuse the retort of being innuendo and conjecture. Well, no, I don't just use innuendos and conjecture, brother. I definitely bring things up with facts to do it. And again, it's very, very easy to reduce what I'm saying down to innuendos and conjecture when you just don't want to be held to a standard. Point blank, period. Again, what I say stands. I know this factually because of who I am, what I am. I have proof and everything to back up my way of doing things. My method works. Okay. Ultimately, it's this. And again, it's not just me, it's a majority of black men. You guys don't like black men daring to criticize the black community and other black men and hold them to a standard, period. I do not care. Again, if I have a house, I own a home, I have a family, I have children. I do not care what the other children are doing wrong for my son or my daughter or my whoever, my wife, to come tell me, oh, well, they're doing that next door. Why can't I do it? They do it too. No, that is not my household. That is therefore I'm not concerned with it. I provide for you. You're a part of me. I'm responsible for you. I use that same approach for the black community. Okay, I'm a part of you. Whether you like it or not, the unproductive or non-productive black man affects my life. I have that understanding. The more difficult and the more that the unproductive black man is promoted, and his stereotype is out here more so than mine, it gives that chance of that day that Black Mind talks about happening. That racist cop that uses the excuse, oh, this is just some big burly unintelligent nigga. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna get it today. When like I said, regardless of what I have, because and then it has sympathizers that are gonna come behind him and be able to say, yeah, if he would have just followed the law and this and the other, well, he didn't resist and all these other things. And it's just like, well, no, man, look at the tape. What happened? He didn't resist. I mean, the dude told him what happened, and he told him he had a firearm in the car. He went to reach for his license and filled him with 9 bullets and killed him on the spot.
What then got away with it too.
Yeah, exactly. So what are we talking about here? That's not the same thing. But again,
what I was asking though was I was asking if you have seen this a lot in panels. I wasn't asking if you did it. But I was asking if you had seen this a lot in panels. I was asking how much have you witnessed what Icare was talking about.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah. Word salad, man. Like I said, bro. I'm a wordsmith of sorts. I mean if you agree or not, I really don't care. Come up here and challenge me, or come on, not here, but on my platform and challenge me. I have a very, very good understanding of communication and the English language. So I see people that try to filibuster and use unnecessary words or go around the long way to make a very, very simple explanation all the time. So yeah, people try to get up here and make themselves look a lot better than they are by overcomplicating very, very simple statements. But I mean, I usually point those out and I zap them as they do it, and I say, okay, well, you did all of this just to say this, bro. And that's just what it is.
Okay, so you've witnessed people doing this a good bit then.
Oh yeah.
And now, Truth Is I Know It has a question for you. Well, he has a comment about the question I was going to ask later on. I was probably going to ask it about 10 minutes later on, and then I'm going to ask JoJo Sigma a question after this one. But do you think that there's a chance that you and BGS will be able to make peace?
I ain't no beef with me and BGS, man. Again, you guys fell for the okie doke. I've called BGS an old, like from jump. I did the same thing to Obsidian. I did the same thing to Gab. That's my running joke. Everybody always tells me. That's why he responds to me, nigga, you ain't young. You ain't young yourself. You old too. That's his comeback. I just do that again, because BGS has a bigger following and people, deify him literally, you know what I mean? And that's your right to do whatever you do. Y'all fell for it. I mean, you listen to that same, if you go back and listen to the playback, and I did, BGS called me a nigga first. He called me nigga first. And I just responded to him in kind as I always done. If you can find anything with me and BGS, I was just on a thing with him on whose was, I forget whose panel it was. I literally make it my way to call him that. That's a running joke I have with him, and he know it. Just like me calling him Bill Russell. Bill Russell's an old nigga, but I mean he's a legendary old nigga. So again, man, you guys, he played with y'all like he was just also taken aback and also offended when he knows, man, this is just my greeting to him. You know what I mean? And even when I came to him respectfully on his platform in his house, he really didn't want to have the conversation because he had to run with the lie. So it is what it is, man. He's not getting no apologies from me. That old nigga know what's up. he know I don't be nothing by it, whatever.
So y'all have an inside joke, in other words.
He know that. He know it.
Okay.
He knows it. He knows it.
Okay, then I guess I have to tell one other YouTuber that it's an inside joke. I didn't know y'all had an inside joke, obviously, because it's an inside one. But I'm glad it's just a joke. But I'll let the other YouTuber know. There was one that was calling for some sort of peace between y'all and an apology from you, not for disagreeing, but for calling him an old nigga. Now, did you call him an old MF too, or was that him? Did he call you an MF?
I don't know. I don't ever call him. I don't call him an MF. But even if I do, man, like I said, I'm a sailor, bro. Okay. I'm a literal sailor. Okay.
Okay. But it was somebody else that was doing it too. You weren't the only one at the time. Somebody cut in and interrupted and said something to him too. So two voices ran together, and I wasn't really sure which one was which.
Yeah, I don't think it was me calling him an MFer, but like I said, I don't think it was me. But like I said, BGS knows what it is, man. Like I said, if he y'all want to believe that this is just some new thing, you must be new here because you heard me say it. And like I said, I give the same thing to Obsidian, ARC, pretty much anybody that's definitely over 50 years old. I hit him with the old nigga or the old fella all the time, man. So like I said, it's just a running joke I got with older guys.
Okay, then about a month after my 50th birthday, I'll let you know that I've turned 50. Do I have to wait till 51? Which one is it? Do
man, 50, you are officially old nigga status, man. Just like me, with me, I have a classification, man. I'm almost old nigga. Like I'm not 40. Like, and then 40 is like getting old nigga. All right, getting old. You know what I mean? Almost old, getting old, and then 50, you're old. Point blank period. I don't care if you got a 10-pack. I don't care if after you hit 50, you are old fella, man. Like you are what? I think at least 70% of life expectancy or something like that. At least 60 to 70% of life expectancy of like people in general. So yeah, man, you old, man, at 50. But that ain't got to be a bad thing, man. That's wisdom. That's that's season. That's knowledge. That's a lot of great things. And like I say, it's just a joke I give. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, I see. Well, there are two options we have, and you've seen it in the military. Either we grow old or we die young.
Exactly. That's that. I want to be that. I want to be an old nigga. I respect them. I want to go there every time, man. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Well, the good news is you seem to be not too far off. I noticed when I turned one of your videos to 720 definition, I saw some grays on your head.
Oh
So yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I saw that. I said, okay, excellent, grays on the head. Then he's
we
not
getting,
too far off.
yeah, we're
I
getting
thought the BGS was going to
the
come back on you for it, but it's an old joke, so he didn't.
Yeah, he tell me that all the time, man. Like you old too. You old. I'm like, not yet, old fella.
Okay. Yeah. Well, in that case, then now that I know it's jokes, I can't wait to hear more of them. I might have to see if I can get you two on a panel at the same time. So now next I want to ask Joe Sigma. Joe, are you still there? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. How's everything, sir?
Pretty good. How about you?
I can't complain. They wouldn't listen to me if I did anyway. Have you been on any of my live streams before under the same or a different name?
No, sir. I watch a
Okay.
lot of your videos though.
Okay, I've seen comments, but your voice sounded familiar, and that's why I was asking if you've been under the same or a different name. But welcome to the panel. I don't usually do live streams; it's rare, and I'm doing one today because this is going to be my last weekday without having to go in because the weekends here are Friday and Saturday. Sunday through Thursday is is the work week. So this is my last weekday without having to be at work for another. I guess till the next vacation. So that's the only reason I'm doing this one now. So I guess I will let you tell us what made you want to jump in on the panel before I ask any questions.
Well, I just wanted to like get your insight on a couple of things. Like the first thing I wanted to ask you was, do you ever think the dynamic between our people can like get to a point of understanding where we can all work as a cohesive unit, or do you think it's just gonna continue to just slowly fall apart?
I'm afraid of a fracture, really, and I'm giving you just my guess based on having been a history teacher and based on observing other people that went through. I can't say the exact same thing, but who have been through something similar. Based on that, and when I say something similar, some people have been through what we've been through, but it was stretched out, or it's been stretched out over a shorter time only. So they've been through it, but not as long. Other people been through something as long as what we've been through, but it ain't been as much. I haven't found the same combination of severity and long-standing suffering that we've had to go through. But watching other people that have had to go through some stuff, I could say that it's probably going to be a fracture where we just going to split off into camps. You're going to have some that say, look, I'm not going to let somebody tell me how to spell properly on one end. And then you're going to have somebody else that's going to say, I'm not going to listen to you if you can't put it in writing properly spelled. And just to give an example, there are going to be some others that are going to say, well, if you don't necessarily have to agree with me all the time, but if you always shouting at everybody, we can't communicate. So I do think we're going to fracture into different cultures. I do think that's going to be the case because that's what other people have done, to be honest. Sometimes it happens sometimes it happens to people because like somebody gets more money than somebody else and they get access to a better education. And sometimes it happens because like even within the family, it may happen because a part of the family moves over here and then their numbers grow over in this other area. But the way they live in that area makes them culturally incompatible with the relatives that they share grandparents with their own cousins. I'm afraid of a fracture, but I think that we're going to start coalescing into different factions. I mean, there are going to be some of us that say, look, we're done with America. Some are going to say the same thing I did. They're going to say we're done with the states because there's not some one solution. We can't just vote our way out of this. And so we're done. And there are going to be others that'll say, well, I ain't left nothing in Africa and my grandparents are buried here in the soil. And then there are going to be others that say, well, who said it's either or? Why not both? We deserve the continent and the country, the U.S. And so it's going to split up, I'm guessing. But I hope to be wrong. But I'm prepared for that split. I'm prepared for that coalescing into different factions, if you will.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, Mr. Blackmont. Like, I'm at the point now. Like, I'm 21. I'm tired of America. I'm sick of the way we portrayed, and you know what I mean. Just the constant mistreatment of us. You know what I mean. And I know some of that kind of fall into our lap about like some of the behavior that we choose to do, that some of our people choose to do. But it's just like, man, it's like when something is just beat into your head constantly, it's like it become a psychosis for some of our people. Like I was talking to Green Gorilla about this like a week or two ago about the behavior, you know, the wannabe hood dudes with them. And I told him, I'm like, I grew up in the hood too. Like it's nothing new to me, but I told him you got some dudes who just don't want to change the behavior, and because of that, they, you know what I mean? It follows them. And I'm just to the point now where I honestly want to get out of America. I hate it. Like my life is, you know, good and stuff like that, but it's just like I just don't like the way America looks.
Well, if you do want to leave, I'm going to let Mr. Fantastic give you some advice before I say anything. I do have some ideas, but I'll let him speak first because I think he lived outside the U.S. before I did on deployment. I was never in the military, but I think he lived outside the States before the year in which I left the U.S. to come out here.
Nah, man. I was just on a boat, man. I'm not Army or Air Force. I've never been land based over you know, overseas. I've been literally like overseas and on seas. so my 9 months of being outside the country, even though I touched down on, let's see, 1, 2, 3 continents. I the longest I've been anywhere was, I think, 7 days. So it's not like when I'm in the Army, but as far as like leaving the States, man, your options are extremely open. I would definitely say get some type of recurring American income that's going to be steady to where before you make the move, to where you definitely have the American dollar as the foundation of your income. So, you know what I'm saying, when you move to wherever you're going to go, 9 times out of 10 you'll be you know, in the plus by a lot. I would say do that, and then just do a lot of research before you move, and use this space again. Like Black Mind's a perfect point of reference. There are plenty of brothers in this space, man, and you know, take full advantage of the advice of those brothers as to where maybe you may want to settle down best.
Because the countries are different largely from each other, Mr. Sigma. They're not. I mean, the West it has some things about it that are monolithic. The languages may change throughout Western nations, but generally the ideas and mindsets are easy for each one to understand from the other. But when you leave the West in general, you find that the cultures tend to vary a lot from even each other. And so it does behoove you to, you can pick countries based on language, or you could eliminate some based on language. You may say, well, you know, I can't learn French, not about to do that, and I can't stand the sound of it. So you eliminate those nations as an example. But yeah, you do have to put a good bit of research into different countries to pick the one that feels the rightest one for you.
Okay.
And Sarah's son, Alid Moore, just wrote in something I was going to say next. And that was going to be that you want to take something with you that, I mean, you want to pick up a skill that you can take with you that's going to be marketable in different places. Now, being an electrician is one example of something that it's marketable in different areas. I don't know what the income is for an electrician in my country, where I'm living now. I'm not sure. I don't know exactly, but I know that down the highway from me in the Emirates, they like to build, you know, skyscrapers for their cities. They got some areas where they don't allow skyscrapers, but in their bigger cities, downtown is all skyscrapers. And so they got to have elevators. So elevator mechanics with a Western education or Western training, I heard that they could make 100,000 US in the Gulf. I don't know if it's still 100,000, but I heard that they could make that much. So yeah, you pick up the skill and you research the countries, and you learn as much of the language as you possibly can. You're not going to be fluent until you live there. You may still not be, but you just learn as much as you possibly can of a particular language if you targeted that country for it.
So
And then that way, when you do land, even just going through customs and stuff, even if they speak English, they hear you try to speak their language. All of a sudden, people start opening it up. They really love it when somebody not from there tries to learn their language. And truth be told, when Black Americans go to certain places and we use a little bit of their language and they see that we're willing to learn more, or they really open up. That's one of the things that separates us from white Americans. And that's the last thing I was going to say. We do want to be separate from, we want to make ourselves appear better than white Americans, because we do go abroad. We meet people, and people that are in major cities where we tend to go, they do meet us, and they tend to have a more favorable view of us.
Really?
So yeah, they in certain areas they do. I mean, if you look in the comments section, we got a gentleman from Southeastern Asia, and he's saying, please come and visit my country. He said, it was over an hour ago, but he said they got women in my country now that are starting to idolize white dudes, and one of them asked me a question about Black people. And that's what he was saying about in his own country. He's asking us here in this comment section, please go visit his country so that they can see what they can actually meet us. When I went to Malaysia, the only Black folks they had issues with were specifically Nigerians. And that's yes, it was for a cultural reason. They don't have anything against Black folks. They're cool with Somalis, Sudanese, and South Africans. Those are the other three major nationalities that they see from Black Africa and Malaysia. They see a lot of them. They're cool with South Africans. They get along fine with them. They fine with Somalis. They're fine with the Sudanese. And sometimes a Sudanese might be able to go there and become an Arabic teacher because Arabic is their first, or it's their national language. They got others, but so you take these skill sets, as much of the language as you can pick up in the States, and as much info about the country that you want to go to, and the skill set. Like, I'm sorry, I just said a skill set. You take these things and yeah, man, you good. I was in the first town that I was in. I was able to make 2 changes to their mindset, and I didn't expect to be able to do it. I was able to change many of their views about African Americans. They didn't hate us. They just thought, they were a little scared of us because of the TV. Then they met me, and I let them know that I was African American. I didn't hide that from Arabs. I don't do that. But then they were like, wait a minute, on the TV, they act like this. Forget about the president. That's the president. But on TV, they're acting like this. And then he's out here, he's buying dinner for us because we fed him earlier. And then they were really shocked when I said, well, see, my dad actually is not going, he may disown me if I'm always eating your food. You feed me and I never get to feed you back in return. And he didn't raise me that way. Wait.
Hey, you starting to fade in and out.
You inherited this. This was taught in the home. Yeah, of course it was. So, actually, and he has no beef against Black brothers, as long as brothers has proper attitude. That's what he said.
Yeah. I'm gonna definitely have to figure something out.
I realize that the sound is going out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you clear now. You clear now, Black Man. You perfect now. You was just going in and out a little bit for like the last minute or so, but you good now.
Okay. All right. Excellent. I can hear y'all too now. For a second, with about 20 seconds, I couldn't even hear y'all. But yeah, it's clear now. Even somebody in the chat lost the signal. And Rael, and I'm gonna let both of y'all chime in about this because we were talking about it. Rael's chiming in on it. Too many Black men have an either-or mindset that handicaps your ability to move in different spaces. Brothers need to evolve mentally and have a diversity of thought that's required of men. I'll let you go first, JoJo.
I think he's absolutely right. Like when I was being raised up and stuff, I was kind of just taught to I was taught to try to do the best I can, but I was never really shown about I was never shown that there was better opportunity elsewhere. Like even as far as like traveling out of my state or whatever, I've been out of my state one time, and it was because I decided to take a trip to Texas and stuff like that. And when I went there, it just showed me it's so much in the world that I haven't seen that like what else could possibly be out there. But I think it's just the way we not raised to be taught like, you should if you go to school, go to college, or you get a trade, or you do this, that you need to explore a different city. We so used to being, like as a Black man, it's kind of like a requirement. You're not allowed to leave your family, like leave the nest and like go off on your own. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it's just like it's a close knitness that the family don't want to let go. Like even with me, for example, when because I stopped going to school or whatever because I got into drop shipping and e-commerce, but like when I was graduating high school and even the idea of me going to school out of state, first thing my mom said, why you want to go to school out of state and such like that? Like she was glad that I was going to school, but she didn't want me to like leave somewhere I had never been before. And because of that, I just didn't leave. I just went to school in my hometown.
And that's all it took, huh?
Mm-hmm. I wanted to go so bad because my friend Terrell, he was telling me about it because he was going to school. He graduated a year before me, and he was telling me, he's like, Joe, he's like, you need to come down here, bro. It's so different than St. Louis is, stuff like that. And when he was telling about it, just showing me site stuff, I got so excited. I'm like, I could see something different. And it's just like her, my aunties, my uncles. Why you want to go somewhere you never been before? Who you think you is? You know what I mean? Like they wasn't focused on the fact of me just going there and possibly succeeding. They were just focused on me going there and just something bad happening or just like it just really bothered them that I wanted to explore stuff on my own. To put it bluntly, they didn't like that.
Okay, so they didn't like the idea of you being ready to leave. How often did you hear that whole "don't forget where you came from"?
A lot. Like even when I was when this is a conversation that started in middle school. Like I had like I could say my auntie said it, my mom and my granny said this. Like when I was coming up or whatever, I went to a Catholic middle school. And it was 100% black kids, but every time we went to like a school, like not a school thing, but like a multi-school gathering or something like that, it'd be like different ethnicities of girls or whatever. And I started talking to a white girl up there, and I told my mom about it, and she was like, "You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that." She never went into detail about why, but she was just like, "You shouldn't do that." And I remember on Thanksgiving, we had my aunties and my uncles, and then we had a whole conversation about that. I think I was like 13, 14 at the time. First thing they told me, she could lie on you and you can get lynched or hung and all this other stuff. And as a kid, hearing that, you just like, oh shit. Like, I think that's why to this day, I don't talk to white kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's been ingrained to the point it's just like, I just don't even speak to them enough. But it's just like as a kid, when you put in a box, you just you don't think about it like getting out of there. But like I could tell you, Mr. Fantastic, I had a conversation with him about this. This was a long time ago about how my upbringing and stuff like that was, and he told me the first thing I need to do is like stand up to my mom and stuff like that. And I end up doing that, but it was just like I was so stuck on like how can I explain it so it makes sense. Basically, he had me to understand like that I was so focused on what everybody else thought about me. I never thought about like how I wanted to do how I wanted stuff to end up by myself on my own. Like I had to come out the shell and kind of decide things on my own. Like just, and it kind of, I won't lie to you, Black Mind, we kind of stopped talking for a while and stuff like that. But like, it's a respect factor there now to where like her and even my uncles and them, like they understand I'm gonna do what I want to do when I want to do it. It took a long time. I hate to say it, but now that it's like the understanding there, they realize like when they tell me something, they just because they said it don't mean that's what's gonna happen.
Well, if they're not willing to pay your bills to stay back there, then they don't have the jurisdiction to tell you not to go elsewhere. And to a certain extent, I do understand why some people might be afraid of some regions for you to go there. I get that. If it's based on something about that particular region, I understand it. I mean, hell, if I told my parents, look, I found a job in Iraq, yeah, they're supposed to flip out. It's Iraq, they're going. It is dangerous. Hell, even in Afghanistan, they're paying us like $100,000 a year in Afghanistan, but it's Afghanistan. They people target teachers, just for teaching English. They're like, oh, you trying to subvert the minds of the youth and turn them against who they used to be and who they are, and they try to follow you home sometimes. So I'm like, I understand why people be scared, but when you're going somewhere where the issue was not necessarily safety, and you can do better for yourself there, then in order for someone to tell you not to go, they need to be able to pay you more to stay, especially for a grown man. because ain't nobody else gonna take care of you anyway. So yeah, you had to go. You had to go. Um, that's it. And we all heard that. We both heard that. I remember going back to my hometown on the Gulf Coast as a kid. I'm not as a kid. I was about I think I just turned 19. I was visiting for Thanksgiving and or the Christmas break, and I saw one of my high school classmates too. He was washing cars, and I actually stopped him to get it washed. And the man said, "Don't never forget where you came." When I told him I was in school in Atlanta, he said, "Man, don't never forget where you came from." And I told him, "Bruh, I'm learning more about where we all come from going there. And you know, if I can sit up here and tell people here where we are in this little town where we come from, it's great. But I had to leave here to find out about where we come from, to find out more about where we come from. And I can't bring this information back to this town because they don't want to know. So really, I need to be telling y'all, bro, don't y'all never forget where we came from. Because they're just so used to saying that. They're so used to hearing and then repeating it. Don't forget where you came from. But we have this concept too. We call it hijra, when you migrate to better practice your faith, which really means you have to go somewhere else to be a better person. And if you have to do it, you do it. And I'm glad you're talking about going somewhere else. I understand why your mom told you about the white women. I admit I'm a little biased against them, but I'm not biased for no reason. I'm just biased because of history. So I understand why your mom would say that. But again, that's a safety concern. That's not, I just don't want my baby to grow up and go out and spread his own wings. It's not necessarily that. That's, you know, that's a safety concern. Yeah, that's true. They'll do that. They did it to my colleague at that good job I told y'all about, where I started spying on them white folk. You know, the brother I started off defending when they were cracking them black jokes on him, and I started going in on the white folks. He was dealing with them white girls in these towns, and that's one of the reasons they were making jokes about him, really, because it wasn't that they would say, well, you know, he's so dark, but really it's because white chicks were walking up to him, and when they would go out and hang out at the club and stuff, they would dig in him. They would see these clothes floating around and say, oh yeah, go check him out. But he went and partied with a bunch of them one night in rural Ohio. You know, there ain't no black folk. He and I were only black folks in that area. And this lady, white lady, said that he raped her.
What?
Yep. Yeah. And this
Man.
was 2012. The funny thing was that her family was the one that told the detective, look, she lied on somebody else before. So she's unstable. And we've been watching out for and everything. Ain't nobody raped her. That man did not do it. It was a family that told the detective she's unstable. She made a false accusation before. And the witnesses told us that she was never alone with him. Because the witnesses were her friends. They knew her, but they still told, they also said she was never alone with this dude. So he wasn't in any legal trouble. He had enough witnesses. Fortunately, they didn't go after him anyway. But because of that, he agreed to stay in that town a day after he was supposed to leave and start another work assignment. He told the bosses, look, a detective asked me to stay. They're clearing me in an investigation for something I didn't do, but they want to clear me. And he still lost his job for that. So even when the detectives played fair, the company that we worked for decided to use that as an excuse. So he didn't go to jail, but he lost his job. And so, if she hadn't said nothing, he'd have been on time for the next work assignment, and they wouldn't have had that excuse to fire him, but then they would have found something else. But that's a different story, about as far as leaving and going. Yeah, man, the world is your oyster, blood.
Right. But and that's another thing too. Like I wanted to just touch upon real fast. Like okay, like I'm not naive to the idea that stuff like that happen. Like, and you just use the a real something that actually happened to you. But this is my thing. How come they'll say that, but they wouldn't tell you growing up like avoid the hood rats too? Like, you know what I mean? It's never it's never like a sit down conversation about like what you should and shouldn't avoid. You know what I mean? Like even with this, even with the police stuff that happened to us, for example, when you got an innocent man who happened to get gunned down by officer and stuff like that. Like the conversation with that didn't start happening until recently. When I was coming up, nobody told me you need to watch. You know what I mean? You need to watch your back. You a black man, it's a target on your back and stuff like that. I had to learn that on my own. Like even with my dad, for example, like me and him had a conversation about it, but it was just like that was recently. That wasn't while I was, you know what I mean, while I was growing up and stuff.
Yeah, I want to hear Mr. Fantastic's take on that. Actually, why is it that we'll tell each other watch out from the white? Well, I understand why we'll say that. I'm not going to say nothing against it. I understand why,
Yeah, I agree
but
with that too.
yeah, but I want to know before you go, Mr. Fantastic. What is your take on why it is that we'll say watch out for them, but then we don't, or let's say our age group didn't grow up hearing that we need to watch out for them hood rats too.
Again, man, it's, you know, it's unfortunate. Women never exposing themselves. Again, your mom can't tell you what what to watch out for in the black community, because if she exposes them, she exposes herself. Even if she's not just the worst of the worst, because there are levels of deviancy in people. I'm not saying that every black woman, every black mom out here is a club hopping, pill popping, carousel riding female by all means, not saying that, but a lot of the things they do share, and even some things can be more sinister than that. Just extreme jealousy, extreme selfishness, deliberate withholding of information. Those things can be just as detrimental as a woman that's neglectful, and she puts you off on your grandma. At least the woman that puts you off on your grandma put you in a safe place and don't have you around men or women that could be jeopardizing your safety, because your grandma genuinely cares about you. You need, at least you're somewhere safe. At least if she has the wherewithal or the know-how to not leave you at the home by yourself, you know what I'm saying, while she's out here, chasing whatever in the club. So like I said, man, one thing we learn in the military is that you can be responsible in your irresponsibility. So again, man, I have a very, very good understanding of the versatility and dynamic of just people, like, what I'm saying, nothing's really totally bad, nothing's really totally good. You know what I'm saying? It's all about understanding all of the circumstances involved. But yeah, the main reason why we don't get told to look out for the quote unquote hood rats, or the bad black women out here that would definitely have been. The numbers will prove it, man. There are not enough white women that have told more rape stories than black women have. Okay, just not. Okay, they don't have the interaction with black men like that. Just like a white woman would do it, a black woman would surely do it. I've seen it happen myself. I knew of a girl that literally was volunteering in the high school bathroom for some sexual activity with several males, and when she got caught up, she went to claim that she was sexually assaulted or sexually violated. Of course, she went to recant her statement, but for a time there, she was putting the lives of young idiot dumb black dudes that would line up in a public school bathroom for sexual situations at risk just for their stupidity. You know what I'm saying? Should your stupidity result in you being some charge as serious as rape? Of course not. But that's something you have to learn along the way and understand. And at the same time, these black moms or these black women would never ever show that. They would just tell the situation about, like what Black Mom said about the white woman that was crazy, and she was literally unstable, to where even though her family had a wherewithal to even though she's crazy, and it may have, who knows, if because she was racist or because she was jealous or because she was mentally unstable, whatever the reason may be, we never know. But the result was she made the claim, and her family had the fortitude to say, like, no, 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 this man's innocent. She's done this before. We'll call it out. So yeah, man, it's a lot of situations that add up to things and variables. But again, the ultimate reason as to why black women don't tell you about to look out for other black women is because if they show you what to look out for those other black women, they'll be shining the light on themselves. And with that being said, man, I greatly appreciate Black Mind, man. I got to get out here and run a couple things, get some stuff did, man. But as always, man, wonderful conversation, brother. I really appreciate your perspective all the time. And hope to hop on here again, man, whenever you out, I catch you, because
Gladly,
because I know
Sam.
you're
And I look
your whole day ahead of us, man. So I feel you.
Yeah, about half a day ahead. So yeah, and I look forward to your next panel, and maybe one day you, me, and BGS can come on, so I can like really learn how to clown somebody, get good at it, because I got rusty in the last 6 years.
Yeah, man, that old fella know what's up, man. He know it ain't nothing hurt. I ain't trying to hurt nobody with it. But hey, man, I greatly appreciate it, man. Y'all got it. I'm out.
Gladly, man. Take care, sir. All right. So, Mr. Webster, I see that you're coming up. All right. Now, Mr. Webster's about to be on in a little bit. Y'all bear with Mr. Webster. I got a question for him, and I want everybody to learn from the question. But he's getting the devices connected. He's giving me the warning. I think he's giving us the warning, actually. Yes, Arch Zuck. Yes, exactly. Prophet Yusuf's story, alayhi salam. He was blamed for a rape he didn't commit. Now, this is something that people in the audience know about because the Muslims in the audience know about it from the Quran. The Christians know about it from the Bible. He was blamed and he didn't do it. And he had to go to prison for it while being innocent. So he had to go in and he was innocent for it. And this is where the Lord reveals to us some of the red pill knowledge right there. That's where we're being told some of it. And see, when we read this, we never think, okay, God is telling us that women are bad. We read this and we understand you got to watch out for the bad women. That's what it is. And that's where he's telling us that they're actually much more similar to men in their concern for us, including sexually, than what we think. We think they're so vastly different by nature, when in fact they are different by nature, but it's not as different as what we've been made to think. But see, here's the thing, Rael, you also said the fact that many older women who have children don't put their adult sons on to knowledge about how conniving women can be shows you many of them are in on and even against their own sons. And this is what I've been saying, and this is what Jay Cash is now beginning to talk about. Now, I don't know how many mothers have not put their sons on. I know that most women don't put their don't put their male relatives on to knowledge, but I don't know how often is it that mothers are hiding this stuff from their own sons. But I'd love to hear you all's feedback on that in the comments. Mr. Webster, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to hit a removal button, or what you'll have to, no, you know what? I'm sorry. I got a message right now, Mr. Webster. Mr. Webster, hit a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Mr. Webster, put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Okay, I guess he can't hear me. All right. So what I have to do is I have to remove him from, okay, I'm going to do a kick, Mr. Webster. Okay, Mr. Webster, I kicked you, but I didn't ban you. I only kicked you because your microphone never connected. And so I was waiting on it and it got stuck. So you can come back in, Mr. Webster. That's fine. William Webster, you can come back in as soon as you hear this. Mr. Sigma.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks for being patient, man. What do you take from Rael's comment that a lot of older women got kids and they ain't putting their sons up on this? It's like they're colluding against their sons and colluding with their daughters. If we look at the last three things that Rael wrote in, what's your take on that? Are you witnessing that too?
Oh, yes, sir. Most definitely. Starting off, we can use my generation, for example. Like when I was growing up, like I made it my business to make sure when I get with a girl, she had to be, you know what I mean? She got to submit and do all that kind of stuff. Cause I was raised up, taught on the importance of, having a man lead and a woman follow. But Mr. Black Mind, I can guarantee you, I've seen it myself. 99% of the women don't want to submit to a man's authority. Like my girl, her grandfather was in her life, and he instilled in her, like, you need to treat a man the right way, cook for him, and all that type of stuff. And because of that, I get to, have the benefit of that type of stuff. And I don't have to cook and clean the house and all that type of stuff. She do it for me. But most of the girls in my generation, it's like it's that type of that. It's all about them. Like the month. Like I got a friend. I ain't gonna say his name, but he his mom. Now the girl he was with wasn't no good for him at all. But his mom, she had a kid that wasn't his, on him, and lied and told him it was his. And the first thing come out his mom's mouth is, you need to be there for that baby. That's your baby, even if the DNA test says otherwise. It's like it felt like Maury in real life. And I said, bro, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. He didn't sign a birth certificate or anything. He ended up signing it because his mom told him. he needs to step up and be the father to that baby. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And you got a lot of like, because this is another thing that I want to speak on real fast. A lot of black dudes, we think we so used to mistreatment, we think it's normal, and we don't realize that we deserve to be treated better. So you got a lot of men who just talk to whatever woman say, kiss her butt, you know what I mean, kiss up to the woman, stuff like this. That's why you got a lot of dudes who in relationships where the woman talks verbally abusive to them and sometimes even hit them, and you just see them. Now, if a black man said that to the black dude, with the woman saying, he'd get mad and want to fight. But when the girl says it, he just takes it like, okay, I accept it. I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? They not taught to realize they value. And we got a lot of brothers, especially my age, that have that problem. They self-worth and self-esteem been so destroyed, they don't realize that the behavior is being encouraged for their mistreatment and for the woman's benefit. Like, let me ask you this, Mr. Blackmon. When the last time you ever heard a woman say, treat a man good, do this for him, do that for him? All I heard from him is, you need to get this from a man. A man need to do this, a man need to do that. It's always about what a man should do, but it's never about how a woman should act to get those things from a man, or how she should submit to him, or how she should cater to him. Like, it's so bad now in my generation, because my girlfriend, she had an Instagram, all these girls ran off of her because she was trying to spread the message of being a good woman and, you know what I mean, dressing modestly and stuff like that. They went on there, are you a pig me and all this? You let your dude walk over you and all this type of stuff. And it got so bad, she came to me one day and started crying about it, because she was just like, why are people so vicious? And she trying to spread a positive message and stuff like that. Now, you know it's a problem when a woman who submit to a man, who do the stuff right, how I do want it done, is looked at as a negative thing. That's why you got a lot of single mothers like in my age group who they crazy. I hate to say it, but they crazy. And the mothers never tell them, just like with a T.I. daughter, for example. The one he took to the hospital. It was so many women that said he shouldn't have did that. It was none of his business what his daughter did. She's 18. Now, I'm of the belief, if you my child and you under my roof, I can tell you whatever I want to. That's my belief. That's how I was raised. But a lot of them were saying, now this is her father. Her father. They telling him he should have stayed out of his young daughter's business. And what's so ironic about it, the older daughter, I can't remember her name, she had a kid with a rapper, right? Now, she was on the interview and this dude said he wanted to marry her. She said, I don't want to get married, that's too much. But she has a kid with the dude. Do you see I would go so far as to call it a mental illness. It's like they want to encourage dysfunction. So y'all had a problem with T.I. daughter that he made sure was a virgin, but y'all for the one that's had a bastard baby out of wedlock, y'all congratulate her and the dude want to marry. That's that negative. It's like the Bible says. In a certain point in time, the good gonna be looked at as bad, and the bad gonna be looked at as good. It's like basically the world just flipped upside down at this point. And I'm gonna keep it brief because I don't want to talk you guys' ears off. But I was having a conversation about this in my literature class too, and we was talking about like the dynamic between the man and the woman or whatever. And you know, when you a black person and you speak against what everybody else believe, it becomes an issue. My teacher had asked the class. He said, "Should a man lead or should a woman lead? What do y'all think?" It was a whole class discussion. So it was my turn to go up and speak. And I told him, I said, "Professor, it's no question a man should lead at all times. A woman should have no type of, she should submit and follow the man's will. And I don't mean like absolute control. All I mean is cooperation." Man, every girl in that class, you think you just run? What do you think this? Ain't nobody gonna let it was ridiculous. But that just show you like the type of the way, like you telling me all this time, yo, 19, 20, 21 years of life, nobody ever told you should listen to a dude. And something that baffles me with the word submission, like you got a lot of these girls who say, I won't submit unless a dude do this and do that. But this is my question. You won't submit to the dude, but you'll open your legs for it. Can't make that make sense. But The mothers never, you never heard the mothers check their behavior though. It's always about gimme, gimme, gimme. What can I get from a dude? Not how can I help this dude or how can I help this guy build.
So it seems that they're prioritizing their materialism over their own libidos.
Yes, sir.
But still, of course, given a high preference or a high priority to both. So you saw the pattern too, then. And to be honest with you, I've heard women say treat men well, but it's been quite rare. And I've not heard them say this without somebody coming back on them later on. That's really what I've gotten out of this, if out of the whole observation. Take for instance Danica Marie. I listened to Mumi Obsidian Ali's interview of Danica Marie, and she said, "Yeah, they've been coming for me ever since I got started. Ever since I said, look, ever since I told men what they need to know, and ever since I've said, treat men well if you want them to treat you well, they've been coming after her." Truth be told, my own cousin, not on YouTube, but my own cousin in on Facebook, put on one of her status, "I don't want to hear that it's both sides when I tell y'all what men are doing wrong to women." She made that very clear. And it wasn't a message addressed to me, but she was saying this to everybody, really. That she doesn't want to hear about it. Don't say it's both sides. Don't talk about what women have done to men. She's gonna tell you what men have done to women, and we need to fuck the shuck up and just take it. So I've seen on occasions where they may say that. One of them, Asada Muhammad, is one of my subscribers. Just in comments at times, she has said, "Yeah, this message is fair." But in another comment, she said, when I said something about how I'm not going after every woman naturally because it doesn't make sense to go after the innocent for anything, no matter who they are. She said, "Yeah, actually, Black Mind, they've been coming after me, calling me all kind of pick meshes and things like that." And apparently this is based on things she's told them in real life. So I've seen it happen. But it's like my mother said about the hair salons. I mentioned that at the beginning of this one here. My mother said that in the hair salons, when them women start talking about the ratchet stuff they're doing and they're bragging about it, "I've done this, that, and the other," and the others are high-fiving them. The women that are not with that understand if they say anything, they're getting pinned down and shaved bald, or maybe sliced up or kicked out, driven out with their hair half done. But they're not just going to sit up and stand up for what's right and not come out with some kind of major embarrassment at the least. So yeah, you hear it. What I don't hear is them saying this unchallenged. I don't hear that. I don't even hear them saying this with just a sense of appreciation. That's what I
Man,
don't hear. It's always a pushback. And Mr. Webster,
Hey, how you doing?
so far so
what's going
good.
on?
Can't complain. I can hear the Borgin a little bit, but I think if you speak slowly, most of it will come through. I wanted to ask you the same thing. What do you take from Rael's statement that a lot of these moms have not even put their own sons up on game? And I want either one of you to chime in about Sesson Alid Moore's statement that they probably don't hide it, but they just don't have that kind of self-awareness, and it may just be narcissism.
You want to answer first,
Okay.
Webster?
Um. Uh. Yeah. I'll go first. Well, I just want to say just right now, my internet is really bad. I live out in the country, so if I start borging or something like that, and if I don't understand you, just fair warning right now. But yeah, as far as mothers and everything, just not nature. I just kind of feel like it's coming from a place of just being manipulative, for lack of a better term. They're just because like I said in the chat, my mother told me at about like 4 to 5 years old, don't bring home a white woman, don't bring home a woman of any other race and stuff like that. But at the same time, my sister has a husband and has a biracial child, and so there's like three female cousins in my immediate family and whatnot. So it's kind of like this double standard that we have in the black community. But as I get more exposed to red pill content, I just you know, I kind of see the world for how it really is. I feel as though as black men, it would be within our best interest to divest from the black community for the most part. Now, obviously, as we already know, that there are some good women in our culture, very few. Uh, those of which are probably already taken. um, so the best thing for us to do is probably either date a woman of another culture or a race, and preferably from maybe or something like that.
Maybe
Man,
from where?
I'm saying maybe like South America or Africa or like just somewhere not in the U.S.
Okay.
Or if it is in the U.S., probably just maybe a Latina or Mexican or something like that.
Okay. And the next question I have for you, before I ask either one of you about Citizen, I'll let Morris comment and how y'all feel about that. My question specifically for you, William Webster, was about what your mother told you. And that's the main reason I called you up here. Your mom said when you were 4, she told you
Yeah.
at age 4, don't bring home a woman of any other race, right?
Yes. Correct.
Okay. Why did she say not to bring home a woman of any other race? Like, why, in other words, why did she
Well,
specify,
she,
like, what does she have against other women of color? That's my question.
well, she's a black woman. I mean, uh, and she is a little bit on the pro-black side, a little bit, so she kind of wants us to stay inside of our race.
Okay. And
And
so,
I believe that the other part is, yeah, I believe that the other part is she's just, a lot of black women are kind of insecure about, their sons or when they see black men dating out in general. So I think it's just like coming from a place of insecurity.
okay. So did she, but she didn't tell you what she had specifically against the women of other races, though.
I guess he.
Well, I mean, it's the usual, if you get with a white woman, they're gonna call you the N word. There's a possibility that they might falsely accuse you of rape and everything like that. But yeah, she has a disdain for white women. She doesn't even like light skinned women. Like most stereotypical black women are. They don't even consider you black if you're like light skinned or something like that. She doesn't like Aaliyah. She doesn't like Alicia Keys because they're black, because
Hey,
they're light skinned. Excuse me. And even when we try to play light skinned female artists like in the car or like at like family gatherings or something like that, she gets mad. It's kind of funny, but it is what it is.
Oh,
and
wow.
that
And
can
go
can I
ahead,
jump
Jojo.
in real quick? Yeah, I wanted to piggyback off what Webster was saying. Like another thing, like if you're on the dark skin side of things, like me and you a dark skinned male, they will look at you as a traitor. Like you will be branded as a traitor. Like I remember I was in what was that, Walmart, and I was getting checking out or whatever, and the girl was so polite to me or whatever. So I was talking to her, flirting with her, whatever, and it was an older lady behind me or whatever. She was like, I can't stand coons, and I was just like, I couldn't believe it. I was just, and look, y'all heard how I talk, like coon where, like I'm just like, I just looked at the lady. I was like, are you serious? But when I was leaving out or whatever, I end up she ended up sliding me her number and stuff like that. But I was just thinking like, I can't even talk to this girl. Like she, what I'm saying, she was cool or whatever. But I was just thinking like, I would get too much backlash for that. Like, man, I was just like, wow, I couldn't believe it. It wasn't looked at like, okay, this is a handsome young man talking to a nice looking girl. It was just like, oh, he's a traitor.
And that's
Uh,
because you were being nice to someone that was being nice to you.
yeah,
Exactly.
personally, I
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of view it as like hypocrisy because on one hand, we're not allowed to date out.
Okay, Mr.
Lighter
Webster, can you
skin, they might
start?
have lighter
Can you say that
eyes,
one
so
again
girls,
because your voice cut out?
we're shamed for even dating them, but at the same time, they're allowed to date outside the race. So kind of like hypocrisy, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
What
black
did your mom say? Specifically, when your sisters had biracial babies, what did your mom say to them, Mr. Webster?
Well, she doesn't like that either. No, we are respectful. You know, we're not gonna disrespect anybody. But but her, my mother and my grandmother, particularly don't like the fact that they date out. But you know, it is what it is. We have an aunt on my dad's side of the family. To be particularly honest, she was the one that pretty much encouraged my older sister to date outside of her race. I remember my aunt would have my sister listen to, like, you know, artists like Paul Wall, you know, Robin Thicke, you know, Eminem, you know, and like, just she would pretty much kind of get it into her head to pretty much date outside the race. And you know, I've speaking to my sister. I remember one time she said something about she thinks that black men have basically abandoned black women, like they've pretty much, um uh you know, they pretty much abandoned the race because, you know, you've seen lot of black men dating out and stuff like that. You know, dating white women and women of other races and cultures and stuff like that. And she's basically saying that, you know, this white basically she has no choice. Is pretty much is what she's saying. Now I will admit, she is still attracted to black men, but what I've seen is black men aren't really attracted to her. So she has no choice but to date men of other groups, which are usually bottom tier men.
Oh, wow. Okay. Um,
Yeah,
and Jojo, what you said was that was a
yeah,
little bit too much too, because they consider you to be a traitor. You were saying like if if you're really dark skinned, I know they get upset, but I don't think they consider either one of us less of a traitor. I don't observe it. Let me put it like that. I don't observe them considering either one of us to be more or less of a traitor than the other one. But they probably miss you more
yeah,
when let's say if take for instance if a Latina flirts with me and then I flirt back, they may not, if they know that I'm black and I'm flirting back, then they say, well, he's confused about what he is, but they don't really miss it because light skinned men are not the prize, at least not in the southeastern U.S. and New York. I know that in those areas we're not the prize. In the West Coast, I don't know. I mean, I heard in California they still like us, but in the southeastern U.S. And going up into New York, I know we out of style. I've covered that before. But whereas in your case, see, you're the one they want. You're the one they desire. They want to be seen out in public with you. They want to show you off to their friends. Um, Everything else being equal, they want to show you off to their girls. Yeah, girl, look who I got. So of course, you know, when you respond to a woman of another race, that's less of a chance of validation for them. So they may miss you more, but they don't necessarily consider me to not be a traitor per se. Um, as a matter of fact, I wound up with with an East African wife, but this is here. Nobody's really said anything bad about me for marrying her. But by the same token, I'm not supposed to notice, but she noticed me, and yeah, she noticed me before I even knew that she was old enough for me. I thought she was much younger, and I thought she was engaged, already married, to be honest. So before I even knew she was old enough and available, she had already noticed me. I had stuck out to her. And so that's probably why they don't really say it's much like, okay, well, she got what she wanted. But if I had been the one that went after her before I knew that she was interested, and I was asking her friends, yeah, go ahead and put in a good word for me, it would have been like, don't nobody want you. Why? And I would have heard some flack for it. Because it would have been me trying to get what I want, so to speak. But yeah, we do, as far as being considered traitors. Oh man, they'll get on both of us. I mean, at the end of the day, they don't really want either one of us to find anybody and be happy with them, especially someone that's, and get this, man, it ain't just, I noticed this, it's not just they want you to be with African American woman. They want you to be with the negatively stereotypical African American woman.
Exactly.
That's what they're looking for. I mean, they kind of gave Obama a pass actually because Michelle Obama, she might have been from a rough area, but she wasn't really a rough woman, just unprovoked like that. She got her manners, and she didn't do anything to embarrass him and anything of that nature. But she, they gave him a pass to be with someone as nice as her. That's what I'm saying. But let's say that Obama had been African American, both sides, from both parents, one from Alabama, the other one from Mississippi, and he gets up and he's talking like this, and then he was with Michelle Obama. I don't know, man. I think they would have given him grief for that too. They probably would have said, "No, she needs to be bigger, darker. She needs to be Gabrielle Sidibe before the weight loss. She needs to be she needs to be like that character Precious." I'm guessing. So Abdullah bin Bobby says that I'm still in style in Virginia, but I never really stopped in Virginia though. Maybe it is different there. I just never stopped there. Furthest north I've ever really spent any length of time has been South Carolina, and they were quiet there. They ain't say much, but yeah, in the Gulf Coast where I came up, no. Even in Atlanta, they were not. And Jay Cash will tell y'all about that. I don't know if he's still in the chat right now, but Jay Cash will tell y'all that being a light skinned brother in the Southeast, they actually are they're harshly judgmental of you. They not necessarily that they hate you per se, but they're more judgmental. Everything you do, they're overanalyzing it because you can't be like everybody else. They can't understand that underneath what they see, you're just about the same as everyone else. But anyway, so I want to ask either one of y'all now about Saracen Alid Moore's comment. He said that he doesn't think that they're hiding it, but he thinks that they're just not really self-aware and narcissistic. But they're not sitting up and consciously thinking, "I'm going to keep my son in the dark so that other women can continue to run game on other men." Y'all think that really is the case, or y'all think it's a mix of what?
I think it's just the fact that they want. Oh, you can go first. You can go first.
Go ahead. Okay, all right. Personally, I feel like they do. I feel like it's we live in a very gynocentric community. Everything is basically female led, to say the least. Yeah, from my personal experience, like I said earlier, my mother told me not to date outside my race or even date light skinned women or women that don't have stereotypical black features. Nobody in my family, as far as the women are concerned, told me about female nature and everything like that, and like how women use men or whatever, and how women can manipulate male ignorance. Is basically the power. The more men that they can keep ignorant, the more power that they'll have. So I definitely feel as though they're doing it on purpose, and that's why you have channels like these and like red spell paces in general to wake up the vast majority of men.
Okay. Well, so she didn't want you even dating within the race, really.
I'm gonna tell you guys what I really think it is. I think that they fully aware of what's going on. They just want men to be the cleanup. Like this is the thing. See, I said this many times before. We see a lot of people go into it thinking women make good decisions. They don't. See, what a lot of women know is their daughter's gonna make bad decisions, but they want the dudes who actually about something to just beat her to pick up the pieces. Like, because this is my thing. Have you ever wondered why after a girl have kids by ain't good for nothing dude, the mama tell them, "Oh, you need to get you a good man, settle down, get a husband," stuff like that. Why is that never emphasized beforehand? It's because they already know that their daughter gonna make a stupid decision. Like, watch this. We use brother Kevin Samuels for example. His channel always exposed how women had dudes willing to marry them. They just choose not to get married. So they already know that the women just bad decision makers. So they feel like they should let them make the bad decision and just men be damned and pick up the pieces for it. They don't hold the daughters to no responsibility at all.
Okay, so they just go ahead and plan ahead for her making a bad decision and then trying to find someone that she has someone that she eliminated previously. Am I right? Can y'all hear me? What do I sound like?
Hello? Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
You there?
I can hear somebody now. All right. How do I sound?
You sound clear. You're good.
All right. Excellent. Okay. Jojo Sigma's got his mic on. Uh, okay. All right. He muted his mic, so he may have to do something. But now I want to ask A. LaRue a question in the chat. Yeah, A. LaRue, you don't have to come on if you don't want to. But A. LaRue, would you be willing to come on a panel tomorrow? If I go live tomorrow, would you be willing to come and tell us what's happening in the Bahamas and what you're seeing? You can answer in the chat if you want to for now. Let's see. Let's see what I'm gonna see what he says.
All right.
About I said I can go on until about 10 minutes after the hour. So I can go on for another 13 minutes and then I have to run. All right, Saracen. Oh, okay. Well, Saracen, if you wanted to come in now, if I send the link now, will you be able to do it? Okay, you said you have to go. I got you. All right. Okay, thanks, LaRue. I guess tomorrow I'll probably maybe I'll start about the not the same time, but I may start about an hour afterwards. So that would be, let's see, A. LaRue, I think y'all on the same time zone as Florida. Am I right? If y'all are on the same time zone as Florida, then what I'll do is I'll go on about let me see here. I started at 7 a.m. this morning, you all's time. So then I'll do it at, yes, I'll go about 8:30 a.m. tomorrow. Then if you want to do that, LaRue. Cortez, when I would make the topic about the spread of the ratchetness, and the spread of the ratchetness, and also I'd have Mr. William on here if you want, so I could make it about the spread of the ratchetness and the colorism, and how this black feminism is being exported with the misandry. So that would more than likely that would be the topic there. But I really would like to know what's happening because see, A. LaRue, I got a subscriber named Anthony Williams. Now he doesn't make videos either, but he's one of my subscribers. He's a Bahamian too, and he told me in comments the same thing under some of my videos. Shout out to Brother Williams. He told me, man, the Bahamas is gone. It's too late. It's not gonna happen. Not here. You're not gonna you're not gonna be half of a good couple, and you ain't gonna start no family. And I ain't been to the Bahamas since I was 8 years old. So that was well over 3 decades ago. That was the last time I was there. And I can only tell you all, I can only know what you all tell us. I can only repeat what y'all say. So I'm not really sure until y'all tell me, y'all let me know. And so Mr. Williams, before I do go, because we got about 11 minutes left, you would tell him, you said that your mom didn't want you to even so much as date, even within the race. Now, some of it you cut out for, which wasn't your fault. And some of it I think I couldn't hear because I lost all audio. I think I lost all audio. But what did she say about light-skinned women? What did she say about them?
Well, I don't really remember what she said particularly off the top of my head, but I just remember, her having like this very like disdain for light skinned women. Not only her, but my sister as well. Like, whenever I would show interest in lighter skinned women or biracial women, they would always, have some sort of attitude about it and whatnot. But with light skinned women, it's just like, they they pretty much just have this inferiority complex where they feel like they can't compete. Where like light skinned women are basically selling all the men. Same thing with the whole white women thing and Mexican women and whatnot. So yeah, it's just all insecurity and whatnot. Personally, as I get older, I just learned to do my own thing rather than just uh, depend on anybody's approval of anything. If I want to date women of other races, or date lighter skinned women or biracial women or whoever, I think I'm gonna do that regardless. Especially after listening to a lot of red pill content, like yourself, and you know, the concerns of black men. As much as I would really like to date black women and just kind of stay with inside my race, you just have to kind of consider that what is it, like the abortion rates are like 20 million since like the 70s, almost like 400 abortions a year. What is it, the rate is like 50%, obesity rate like 75 to 80%. The out of wedlock birth rate 75%. So it's kind of like I want to date in my race, but it's kind of hard to do it at the time, without catching some sort of disease or something like that, or just finding a woman that's combative. You know what I mean? So that's my opinion of it.
Okay. What would your mother say if you were to date a woman that was black, but just not in the States or not from the States?
Well, she is pro-black to a degree, so I think she'd be fine with that. Yeah, I don't really think that she'd have a problem with that. I mean, I know like a lot of the pro-blackness is kind of hypocritical to an extent. Like you can't date light-skinned women even though they both have black parents and they're all biologically black. But then at the same time, you can't date a woman outside the race or whatnot. But and all this stuff like that, it just really doesn't make any sense. It's very hypocritical. But no, I don't think she'd have a problem with me dating a darker skinned black woman in like maybe Africa or like South America or something like that. I think she'd be fine with it. Now, me personally, I don't really care. I'll do whatever I want. But
Yeah, but I'm asking for the benefit of the audience so that they can, they'll see a lot of them have heard something similar. Maybe their aunt told their cousins this or their mothers told them
yeah,
this. So I asked them so they understand exactly how common and how widespread this is. Ironically for me, nobody ever told me don't date light skinned women, but my my parents told me not to go after only them, not to limit myself, not to automatically view darker skinned women as unattractive, which was
mm,
that was of course very reasonable. It's just that they told me this because they understood that at that time the brainwashing was bad. At that particular point, I was in fourth grade. Yeah, that's exactly how we were being taught to think. But what they didn't understand was that this was being passed on largely from moms, not being
mm,
passed on through guys. And it wasn't guys teaching their sons to feel this way. They were talking the same way my dad did, actually. They were being very inclusive. It was mom saying, "Don't you bring home nobody darker than me, or don't bring home nobody darker than you." Usually, that's what was being said. But other thing too is that, and other thing too is, I guess it's the last question I can think of, and then you could ask me any. What did your mom
cool.
feel about light skinned black men, good or bad?
Light skinned black man. Well, this is where it gets kind of hypocritical because my dad is light skinned. My
Okay.
dad is he's yeah, he's like brown skin, dark skin. I take after my mom in terms of my looks. Like I get my athleticism from my dad, but my looks from my mom. Yeah, so my dad is light skinned. I mean, he's bald now. He's almost 50, but when he was younger, I looked at pictures and he had like looser curls and whatnot, and everybody from his family, for my dad's side, like his sister, his mother, they're all light skinned, except for like his dad and whatnot. So it's kind of hypocritical. She doesn't like light skinned women. She doesn't want her sons dating light skinned women, but she can have multiple children with a light skinned black man. I know it doesn't really make much sense, but yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. Okay. Dang. So that's what she
Yeah.
was. So she didn't believe the negative
Yeah.
stereotypes then about lighter skinned black men, huh?
Not really. As far as like light skinned men being weak or effeminate or something like that. Well, let me just tell you, my dad is very masculine and whatnot. My whole family is from New York. And everything like that. So my dad, he used to be a fighter. He was a martial artist, as well. So very muscular, very handsome, and everything like that. So she didn't really have to deal with my dad being effeminate or anything like that. Like, because obviously that's kind of a stereotype in the black community that light skinned men are effeminate, but
Okay. So she didn't believe that then, but then again, your dad didn't fit it. So, I mean, your dad was the opposite from what you're telling me. Fighting
Yeah,
and boxing or you said martial arts, right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay. All right. So he was the opposite. Now, if
yeah.
he had
Like
been an even, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I want you to finish.
good. Okay, yeah, yeah. I
Uh,
was saying that. Golden Gloves boxer, something like that. I think he like worked with like World Junior and stuff like that. He competed. He's pretty well known in New York, well, at least the part of New York that he's from and everything. Yeah.
okay. Now, I'll ask this question too. Then, because that leads me, I just thought about this in the last minutes. If your father had been an even keel, light skinned man, I don't mean necessarily the Clark Kent version, but if he had just been even keel, just he didn't fight for sport. He didn't start arguments, didn't fight for sport. You'd have to go and start something with him to even find out if he could fight or not. As far as you know, your mom, do you think she would have given him a chance then?
Mm, honestly, I can't say. I'm gonna say yes. Because I think she's just like most women. She's attracted to masculinity and whatnot. So my dad's masculine, regardless of whether he was a fighter or not. But yeah, I'm about to say yes.
Okay, all right then. So he wouldn't have to be out here knocking people out. He just can't be no coward or no pushover, and that's reasonable actually.
Yeah,
There's no
yeah,
reason to knock
basically,
anybody for
yeah,
that. The thing is that I guess I'm not. Well, I guess that you're. I guess she and he are both from New York. In the Southeast, it would have been. It probably would have been similar before 1989. Now, when 1989 rolled around in the southeastern U.S., it was different. Some people like to say, well, it was that's when New Jack City came out, but that was 1991, I believe. I think they finished shooting it in 1990, but I believe it was released in 1991. And so, by that, it was a different story by then. But see, even in 1989, things had shifted in the southeast. If you were light skinned, especially if you were light skinned with green eyes, or if you were light skinned with straight hair, you had to fight in order for that stereotype to not be applied to you. You didn't get to just be even keel. Now you could be light skinned and 6 feet tall and still have 4 seat hair. Light skinned, 200 pounds, bench pressing 400 pounds, and you'd be left alone. But the default was no, you had to actually, you had to compensate somehow, especially where it was known, especially as far as women were concerned. Now, hopefully with the community, hopefully our population will get to a point one day where it's not the case. But I don't think it's going to be in the U.S. and I don't even think that's going to be in the continent unless we were to go back to the continent and tell everybody you're going to take your skin bleach off the shelves, and if you don't, we're going to burn the shop down. Now that could be the case, possibly. Before I go, do you have any questions for me, Mr. Webster?
Off the top of my head, I guess I'll ask you, because I feel like this all has to do with culture. You know what I mean? Like with colorism and whatnot. Obviously, we live in a Eurocentric dominated society. With that being said, I feel like it would be within our best interest to divest from white culture. American culture is basically just an extension of white culture. with that being said, would you feel as though we should incorporate? I think you answered this question actually before when I was on other times, but do you feel as though, as Black people, it would be within our best interest to basically incorporate different cultures from other parts of the world that's other than that of European, to say the least?
It would certainly do so. I did answer, but I think that was before I saw you in the comments, so I wasn't sure if you heard it, I but I didn't see your name in the comments at the time I was answering this. Then again, my memory's bad too. But I do remember what I said was
Yeah.
that I don't know of a framework by which to build another culture outside of Islam as a religion. The reason is because you can have more than one culture because there are multiple cultures within the Muslim world. However, there has to be a framework. Some things you just can't do, and some things you will have to do, and other things are a choice. And within those bounds is where we have the flexibility. And so I would say that, yeah, we would have to incorporate different things from different parts of Africa. And to a certain extent, we would have to pick and choose, which is something that a lot of people born in Africa to a specific culture may not like. But we would have to do this. However, we would have to be honest in doing it. We would have to tell people from the continent, look, we can't take everything from everybody. So since we can't do that, we're going to take, this is something that we need. So we're going to take it and we thank you for it. We'll give you the credit. This is something we can't take from y'all, though. And so this is something that we need as well from over here. You may not have known about this group of people because y'all live far from each other. But you know what? You can thank them for us finding something that works. So you take a group in Malawi, for instance. You got these men and their own people call them hyenas. Their own, that's their nickname amongst their own people. These are men that give women a sexual experience before they get married. That's not going to work with us. That's just not going to happen with us. So we can't take them with us. I forgot the name of the ethnicity, but that's not going to happen. There are some people in Uganda that what they do is they lay a man down on the ground and the aunt and some other lady relatives get to dancing all on him and everything. And if he pops a woody, he's seen as unfit for their relative that he wants to marry. That's not going to work for us either. Because, I mean, I'm sorry, but if my in-laws get to dancing on me trying to get me to pop a woody, I'm not popping a woody. But if they get too close, I'm going to push them back. What are you doing? Don't dance suggestively on me like that, because that's not, as a Muslim, I'm supposed to turn and run or push you back. I'm not supposed to sit still for something like that. And so not everything's going to work, but we will have to look at different things from Africa, find out what they do and take them because there are certain things that actually would work. Like, for instance, the parents being involved in matching the kids up with each other, but not forcing the kids. So, we would need stuff like that because it's going to be hard when you're young. That's when you need to get married, but it's also hard to know everything about how to read people. So unless you're trained from a young age to read people, like from childhood, you're going to need some elders' wisdom to help you make a selection. And you still, of course, got to approve because you're the one that's got to live with them. So there's got to be that balance. And you know what? We're going to have to throw a lot of European stuff out because, most of it out. Yeah, because with the Europeans, incest became rampant amongst their royalty. And since it started with since it was really rampant amongst the royalty, that's how certain royal bloodlines disappeared, really. They didn't just breed themselves into royalty, they bred themselves into extinction. And now they're not there anymore. The last of the Habsburgs, when he died, mind you, Habsburg sounds like a German or Dutch name, but he was a Spaniard. And when he died, he had one testicle and it was dead before he died. They found this out in the autopsy. And he was the last one of the Habsburgs. That's because they bred themselves into extinction through incest. So we have to throw out the stuff that Europe does. But, they're organized. I give them that. We'd have to learn from that. We certainly would. But we would have to do one thing that V-Dub Boogie's been saying is we would have to get our own educators. We have to get our own to teach our kids. And we would probably have to have some, people from Black folks from different parts of the world, even from Melanesia, teaching the kids. But we would have to be selective even in picking them. And we'd have to be really balanced. We have to avoid the two extremes. You don't throw out a good teacher, throw out the baby with the bathwater. You don't keep the dirty water in because you're afraid you're gonna throw the baby out. You know, we got to find that balance where you throw out the bathwater and keep the baby, and that's gonna be the hard part. Yeah, we got to build a culture, but that balance is gonna be rough. And in all honesty, the ones I've seen that have been the most balanced, they weren't just Muslims, because I've seen a lot of Muslims that sucked, but they're the ones that actually studied the faith, even if they studied it for a year. Those are the ones that I've seen that have actually shown the most balance. If they studied for a year, then they understand how do you give everybody they do credit? How are you going to be fair to someone even if you don't like them? How are you going to give the rights to someone that you may not like? How are you going to tell an unpleasant truth to someone that you do like? Those things that balance you out. So I hope that helps. Hope it answers. I guess before I go, any more questions?
That's pretty much it. You said that you're gonna be live streaming tomorrow, so I guess I'll try to catch that one and I'll try to hop on. I really wanted to talk about the subject a little bit more, well, a lot more, but I'll just save it for maybe tomorrow when you start your next stream. But I appreciate you for having me on, and I'll see you next time.
Gladly, sir. I'm glad to have you, and I'm glad we could get your microphone working in the end. So that being said, to the rest of the audience, I'll probably do a recording between now and the live stream, but tomorrow I'm probably going to do it about 8:30, somewhere between 8:30 to 9 a.m. Eastern time. That's when I'm going to try to do it. I can't make any guarantees. This is the plan, but that is my intention at this point. And I'll try to send out a notice or a notification well in advance before I do it. Thank you all for listening. I mean that from the bottom of my black heart and from the depth of my black mind. Hopefully what we talked about and recorded won't be necessary at some day in the future. In the meantime, I hope it helps you all out. Assalamu alaikum and black heterosexual non-select male power just because they don't like it.